Good evening and welcome everybody to a special meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. I will call this meeting to order at 6:08 p.m. on June 30th, 2026. May I please have a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Weatherby. Present. Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Manley.
Here, present.
Yeah, Mr. Boggs is absent. I don't know if he'll be joining us. We have a meeting agenda that was posted last Friday. Are there any alterations or changes to it as presented? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve. Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we have a public hearing up first. This is a continuation of a public hearing that we opened in May. And extended another meeting that's been extended through till today. So this is on the comprehensive plan for 2025 to 2045. If the town board is amenable, I'd like to give everyone who wishes to speak 5 minutes. Does that work for you guys?
Sure.
Yeah. Please take up to 5 minutes. That's 2 more than previous, but I know that sometimes people ran a little bit over, so I'll give you 5 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, please acknowledge that by wrapping up. Everybody who wishes to address the board will have the opportunity to do so. Typically I go back and forth in person and online. Right now it looks like we only have one person online, but I'll make sure that everybody in both spaces has the opportunity to participate. Okay, they have a motion to untable the public hearing on the comprehensive plan 2025 to 2045.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind coming up here if you're in the room so everybody can see you, and that please identify yourself. And then I will start the timer.
Rich Goldman, 5664 Pine Ridge Road. Before I start, the fact is you have a resolution tonight to approve the comprehensive plan. So I don't even know why we're having a public hearing, because you wouldn't have been able to incorporate anything we said before you vote. So I don't understand how you have a public hearing and the same night have it vote in the thing you haven't studied yet. We're just going to be clear about that. So I think a lot of people's experiences during this whole process is people come up here, they talk, some are world-renowned experts, but there's never an engagement with the experts or the people. Thank you for sharing, basically. We're going to go do what we want to do and not incorporate what world experts are telling us about the environment here. And it's not just one, it's not two, it's many. So I request that we actually listen to the people who are experts in the field and willing. They go around the world charging a lot of money, getting a lot of honorariums for their work, and they're willing to do this for free. So I would encourage us to take advantage of it. So I know the 239 has come in, and I just want to read parts of it. So it's clear that the 239, which is from the county input on it, that they're not requiring us to do anything. But they do, however, have the following comments on the proposed action, which I'm going to read. So the town's draft future land use map identifies large expanses of medium density residential. We encourage the town board to consider a nodal development approach. The county supports nodal development patterns for many reasons: to direct investment of limited public resources, such as public water, sewer, and transit routes, where it can have the most impact, to support walkable, compact development patterns, and to help protect the rural character of communities throughout the county by limiting sprawl. For more details, see the County Comprehensive Plan section on this. The large expanses of medium density residential identified on the draft future land use map do not appear to be focused enough to support many of the reasons for nodal development identified above. We suggest the town board consider reducing the extent of the medium density residential to areas with access to public water and areas that are walkable to amenities. The town board could also consider what types of lands they would like the medium density residential area to avoid. We suggest that the town board consider avoiding rural areas with natural features such as wetlands, unique natural areas, and stream buffers, as well as properties in the ag district and agricultural parcels with prime soils. And I must say, this comment is consistent completely with what everybody who's ever come up here in this whole process has suggested. So I really would like you to take this seriously, discuss it, and at least tell us why you're not going in that direction.
Thank you for your comments. Okay. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay, is there anybody in person who wishes to address the town board? I'm sorry. Did Shirley raise your hand? She didn't. She didn't. Okay, cool. Sarah, please go ahead.
Street. Over the past year, local residents have attended meetings and submitted written oral comments expressing support and concerns about specific proposals in the draft 2025-45 comp plan. While the comp plan committee responded positively to some of these constructive suggestions, the draft plan still proposes medium density residential housing in areas that are near state designated ag districts, natural areas, and on land that does not have municipal and water sewer. The recent response by the county in their 239 review also made this observation and expressed some concerns. I'm not going to repeat what Rich just said, but the second paragraph of the 239, the large expanses of medium density residential identified on the draft future land use map do not appear to be focused enough to support many of the reasons for nodal development identified above. We suggest the town consider reducing the extent of medium density residential areas with access to public water, areas that are walkable to amenities. Town board could also consider what types of lands they would like the medium density residential area to avoid. We suggest the town board consider avoiding rural areas with natural features such as wetlands, unique natural areas, stream buffers, as well as properties in the agricultural district and agricultural parcels with prime soils. So the other thing that's on the agenda for tonight in sort of connected to the approval of the comp plan is this application for this smart growth grant, which I find really kind of ironic because it sort of seems like the comp plan is everything but smart growth. And so, I mean, I'll go on with my comment here, but it says the public has asked many times that the process of adopting the current plan be slowed down to give time to conduct the recommended housing study. The resolution for the support and authorization to apply for the smart growth planning takes us towards another step in rezoning without even knowing what medium density residential zoning might look like, or a definition of the multiple legacy districts that are scattered throughout the town. The resolution calls for providing access to housing across all incomes, reduce tax burdens, promote sustainable economic development, and enhance quality of life. In my opinion, the draft plan has placed much of its efforts on housing, ignoring some of these other goals. Show me a community in upstate New York that has accomplished all of these goals, and I suggest we just copy what they've done. It's quite amazing. The resolution before you tonight claims that the zoning process needs to be streamlined. Where's an analysis of our current zoning? I'm not aware that I've heard very little discussion about problems with our zoning per se in the process of our zoning. I'd say let's make this a priority along with the study. Smart growth planning has many good aspects for specific types of communities. We need to have a conversation as a community to whether this is what our town wants. The recent election shows that this conversation is very much needed. You should not rush for funding for a program that sets the wheels moving in a very specific zoning direction before the existing residents have time to understand the implications. I respectfully request the town board publicly respond to the written and oral comments that have been made to both the CP community and the board as a way to get this process started. Thank you.
Thank you. I came on so I can share. If I can do a screen share. Okay, is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay,
Sure, let me do.
is there anybody in person who wishes to address the town board? Please go ahead.
Thank you. Bob Howarth, live on Reynolds Road, town of Ulysses. With Roxanne Marino, my longtime partner. We've lived here for 40 years on our farm as of this week. Very proud of this community. I think it's a wonderful place to live, and I want to continue to be proud of it. Having said that, I'm very frustrated by where we are going with this planning document. You and the board, comp plan committee before you have received substantial critical input on the comp plan from me and many others. And yet several problems persist, and you seem to have ignored much of that input. Certainly hasn't been any public discussion on your board that I've heard. Several former members of the town board have contributed to that critical comments. A former member of the planning board has been very critical. I was on the BZA for 11 years and chair for approximately half that time. I come to you with that experience. Many of us are also experts in the area of environmental science and risk and or planning. Several of us are members of the faculty at Cornell who work in environmental quality issues professional. And you've heard from professional planners who've worked for the state for their entire career and the time of Ithaca for their entire career. You seem to be ignoring them, but I appreciate what the people before me have said, which refer to the fact that several of us are here and, do this for a business. I get paid basically by Cornell, but I do consulting on the side on issues like this, and my standard rate is $500 an hour, and I'm not charging to the town. It's free, but please listen to us. At this point, as you've heard, the county planning department has officially weighed in with their 239 review. And I would note that they largely agree with the input that I and others have given you to date. I believe that ag and markets would also be very critical to the current draft of the comp plan based on my conversations with them, which I've documented and what I've given to you previously. I've heard nothing back from the town to question the interactions I've had with ag and markets. They question the water districts you have now, and there's state policy against putting water districts out into agricultural lands. I think they would not support that. If you've considered the input that I and others have given at all, again, it is not apparent from the public record for town board meetings. Perhaps you've read our input individually. I don't know. Perhaps you've discussed it amongst yourselves outside of formal meetings. I don't know. But you owe it to the community to formally look at what we've done, discuss it. I would suggest if you disagree with what we're saying, come back and ask for our engagement and have a conversation about it. To proceed without having that conversation and without formally responding to us, I think it's really bad government. It's certainly not transparent government. I think it puts the town at risk of a Article 78 action. As BZA member for 11 years, I took repeated training. I'm also on a commission for the state of New York, where I also took training on Article 78. The town is vulnerable if you are not using the best available information, if you are discarding information or not considering it fully without explaining in a public record why. You're being arbitrary and capricious. That puts the town at high risk. And I really object to my tax dollars going to defend bad government over Article 78. So I urge you to have this public discussion, perhaps interactively with those of us who've raised these issues before you take up the secret. I'm surprised to see it's proposed for tonight. I think a negative declaration would be totally wrong. We've provided plenty of evidence that the changes you're suggesting would lead to changes in zoning, which could have major environmental consequences. That's not a negative declaration. So, in the interest of good government, transparent government, and the community we all love, I ask you to go slow and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Is there anybody else in person who wishes to address the town board? Please go ahead.
Oops, sorry. Want me to come to? Good evening, thanks for the opportunity to speak, that's San Marino again. You have plenty of comments from me already, but regarding the items specifically on the agenda for tonight's meeting, I sincerely urge the board to explicitly consider a full seeker analysis with a positive declaration on EIS preparation of the potential adverse environmental impacts, that this should be done to include the growth inducing impacts of such a large increase in emphasis and area designated for denser housing in the plan, and including concerns that have been raised for environmentally sensitive and hazard prone areas by many people over many meetings and in documented writings. The process of making a determination of no environmental significance on the full EAF tonight, which was only posted for the public to read very recently, and then proceeding to adopt the plan right afterwards, which is on your agenda, is not at all conducive to serious consideration and analysis of the many public comments that have been made at public hearings on the comp plan. To simply say that adopting a 20-year horizon land use planning document that increases the expanse of the highest density housing area by over 2,000 acres from the current situation, including into some environmentally important and or hazard prone areas for increased flooding, for example, with climate change, and with the accompanying intent for expanded municipal services in those areas, which also includes significant areas in a New York State agriculture district and in active agriculture currently, to say that is only administrative and not likely to have any potential adverse impacts on the environment. It's not giving fair and thorough consideration to sustainability, to the efforts and input of the public, or to coordination with county planning documents, which they have referenced and we say in our plan we looked at. The town board should do better than to rush this through to be in a better position to apply for a grant to change the zoning to align with the plan. I implore the board to take the time to do this well and to thoroughly consider our incredibly valuable natural resources and environment, and the input that the board has received from Tompkins County Planning and Sustainability and from many members of our community, including planners, environmental scientists, and former municipal officials, both elected and on advisory and planning boards. I further emphasize what I had stated before: a much more thorough study of how our housing is needed and where it is best located is necessary to protect our ag lands as well as our floodplains and other sensitive regions, and it's a critical first step before considering any rezoning actions after plan adoption. The current projected population growth analysis in the document, 8 new housing units a year and nearly no population increase, does not support such a large expanse of highest density residential. We need the study to see where we put it and why it's needed. As such, I urge the board not to submit the CFA application to update the zoning until this work is done as a top priority for our funding use, and you could use staff and volunteer effort for it. And I urge you to look at the analysis that George Franz sent in late March about the development trends and other issues that he raises. He is a very experienced planner, and it has a lot of things that I don't have time to read. And lastly, I'll just say that one of the criteria for determining significance of the full EAF that you're going to look at tonight and have a resolution to say there are no environmental impacts is a substantial change in the use or intensity of use of land, including agricultural, open space, or recreational resources, or in its capacity to support existing uses. It is a substantial change. Please consider it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the number? Shirley, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am here tonight to read a communication from Sue Ritter. And then when I'm finished with that, I have my own comments. So Sue Ritter, I'm on Pine Ridge Road in Trumansburg. Sue Ritter is the former director of planning for the town of Ithaca. And these are her comments. The town of Ulysses comprehensive plan should limit dense development to areas closest to Trumansburg and Jacksonville. This is an opportunity to ensure that land in our town is used most efficiently with development that is thoughtfully considered and with an emphasis on creating intentional neighborhoods that make economically efficient use of municipal utilities and services. But unfortunately, the plan proposes to rezone rural areas of the town to same higher density proposed for land adjacent to the village. These are rural areas that will be expensive to retrofit with sewer and water, in some cases, utilities, where sidewalks would be prohibitively expensive and where residents will always be dependent on their cars. This will only degrade our community by exacerbating sprawl with the loss of viable agricultural lands and open space. The projected population growth for Ulysses does not necessitate this amount of potential development growth and will only lead to disconnected spots of development here and there that will diminish our rural landscape and leave the new residents isolated and car dependent. The major employers and economic engines of the county are not here in the town of Ulysses, and the push to encourage substantial growth into the rural parts of our town is unwarranted and unnecessary. The major employers are the city of Ithaca, the towns of Ithaca, Dryden, and Lansing, where municipal water and sewer exist along with substantial bus service and commercial services, making them attractive and capable locations for handling new, denser housing. The town of Ulysses does not need to become a major housing contributor to the greater Ithaca community. Instead, encouraging a natural and thoughtful progression of growth near and adjacent to our existing growth hubs, Trumansburg and Jacksonville, makes the most sense for maintaining the quality of life that residents value about living in Ulysses and creating connected and sustainable new neighborhoods for future residents of the town to enjoy. The future land map inaccurately portrays all more or less 118 acres of the parcel owned by Cayuga Compost and P&S Excavating as being a legacy business. But the business facility itself occupies only approximately 15 acres of the property. Approximately 100 acres is currently in active field crops and woods. Identifying this entire parcel as being a legacy business is wrong and suggests that some future business or commercial use would be appropriate for all 118 acres. This is a serious flaw and should be corrected. So that's the end of her comments. I don't know how much time is remaining. Caitlin, can you?
You have a minute, 32
Yeah.
seconds.
So the only thing I want to say is, I try to put myself into your shoes, the town board member's shoes, and I can't because I've never been there and I'm not you. But I do recognize that when you get a lot of input that goes in a direction not consistent with where you're headed, it's not easy. It's not easy to stop the direction you're going in. It's not easy to listen to what other people are saying. I did it last week with a girlfriend of mine who started to tell me something she really believed, and I could not hear her. And so I just want to acknowledge the request that you're getting about listening to the experts, about taking in their communications is really important. And without doing that, I think you're heading for splitting the town even further than it already is between people who want environmental and people who want building. We can do it together, but it's going to come from you. It's going to come from you listening, engaging, having conversations, letting us be involved in those conversations, not just listening this way, but being involved in the conversations, like taking the points that have been brought up and then discussing them. And as Bob Howard said, and I think others have said tonight, having it be a public conversation versus something that's just, listen, thank you for your comments, and then continue going down the same road. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else in person who hasn't had a chance to speak? I'd like to.
I got some tone, but
Oh, okay. I mean, I think you have about another minute and a half.
it is.
Great.
So. The past, the 20-year plan. With 40% of the board not present. is to me the height of hubris. I mean, you're not listening, you don't have the representation, actually have the backing of the people, at least of the whole board, to go forward. And that seems like a real PR mistake for one thing, but it's also a democratic mistake. And we do not have, just wait for the board to have the 5 members it's supposed to have. You'll have a lot more discussion and you'll have more credibility with the community. I just don't see with 3 people how you can do that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who didn't have a chance to speak, that wishes to speak? Okay, I'm going once. Going twice. Of that, we did receive written comments that have been incorporated previously. Did you receive any additional written comments that we need to, that's not reflected in current folks who are attending? I know that a couple of you submitted comments that you already read. Were there any additional ones?
No.
Okay, then I will accept a motion to close the public hearing on the comprehensive plan of 2025 to 2045.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So. I wanted to, before we get into a discussion, I wanted to address, a couple of, items, that were brought up, and, I did request, so, Krista, you gave me access, so it's great. Thank you. Just a second. Okay. So I'm popping up on the screen, and I don't know if they can get it, she can get it any bigger, see if I can get it any bigger for you.
Close the tools on the left.
How
On
do
your right, nope, no, right.
So.
I close? I'm sorry. I never share on this. Oh, there's an app, sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
just we'll go to Albert a bit more.
So, yesterday, the meals, our town planner, Liz, myself, and Carissa, attended a, see if I can see me up close. I think I can do it without you actually being up in my face. Had a meeting with county planning and sustainability to discuss their comments and to have a conversation. This is they submitted back in February. March 6th, sorry. Is that when they responded or when they submitted?
Nope, that's when they submitted their comments to us.
Okay, so but back in February, we submitted our plan to them for soft comments, soft 239. Yes. And they submitted comments back, which were effectively the same comments that we received in February. And to me, that was surprising because as a result of the receiving their feedback at the comprehensive plan committee level, we actually made changes to the future land use map and changes to the comprehensive plan to address concerns related to issues related to where water lines are, related to considering areas of environmental sensitivity. So this is the map that they looked at back in they received in February and made comments on in March. Okay, and so you'll note that this section over here, you pay attention to what happens in this section here and what happens in this section over here. So the Agard Road area and over in the Waterberg neighborhood. So that's where this is that from then. And then so I'm going to do a stop share and I'm going to share with you what the proposed draft is. Apparently I hit it myself. Give me just a sec. So what I did is when we were meeting with them, I wanted to have a conversation about things that they may not be aware of. Because the comprehensive plan is obviously a large document. They admitted in the call that it's challenging for them to review comprehensive plans. Obviously they're busy and need to be thorough. But also, they said that, they're difficult to do. It's a lot harder to do the environmental or to do the 239 review for comp plans. It's a lot easier to do it for uh for land use zoning changes in particular. What did this? What did I do? Aha. I did have it. Now I can share it. And so we had a conversation about this map. And this is the map that is our current future land use map. And I'll move it up, Carissa. This is our future land use map, and which had been amended based on their previous comments. And so
Our current proposed.
this is our current proposed
Just-
future land
okay.
use map that was released in April, and then we've made some small tweaks to it at the town board level. But I wanted to identify some major changes that happened. This area is all now a completely different color. Waterberg is, is in its low residential density. We added this large section of resource conservation over here. We reduced the amount of orange along the Agard Road stretch. You can see it's down to yellow, it's low density. There's no public water lines there. And then what I did with this is I superimposed the existing water lines in conversation with Carissa, and using the mapping that is publicly available. If you Google Town of Ulysses water map, there's a water map that has these lines. And so the black lines, the thick black lines, are where existing town-owned infrastructure is. And then this area over here is where is Water District 1 that serves the Cars property and a few additional properties, so Cuba addiction recovery services. They are in the process of adding 40 beds to their facility.
I can't tell what you're pointing at.
So it's where the Cars facility is. I'm sorry, this is the best I can do.
Okay.
You're looking at the small plus on the
Yeah, right
map,
here.
not the hand, which is a bit. It's like two things to grab.
Sorry.
No, I think it's okay. Yep,
Nope,
yep.
Cars is over here.
All right, I'll use the hand. That's.
Yeah, sure. If you want to use the hand, I'll put the Cars facilities over here. That's Water District 1. That is a water district that was built in the 1980s that is connected to a distribution line that predates 1935. And that's the old distribution line that runs from Indian Fort area to the village of Trumansburg. The water prior to 1965 flowed in a northeasterly direction from
This line that
Yep.
talks about, okay.
Yep, and it flowed in a northeasterly direction coming from the Indian Fort wells that are now no longer in use. In 1965, and you're gonna need to go, well, no, actually you don't. If you go up to the Frontenac Road area, there's a red line up there. Up there you go. So in 1965, the village of Trumansburg was able to move and receive their water through, at that point, Camp Barton. And water lines ran, so they started getting lake water from there, or lake, they have a lake well, or just a well. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get technical engineering terms with their water. They received their water from Camp Barton, which is now Three Falls State Park. They ran a line and allowed people to hook up who live in the village of Trumansburg. In the line that I showed you before that originally came from Indian Fort, property owners were allowed by the village for many, many decades to connect their properties to village lines. So they are Town of Ulysses residents who live outside the village who are using public water services right now. And then in 2015, 2017, I believe was when it came online. The village of Trumansburg added a secondary water source that comes out of Taganic State Park. That water line also serves the state park offices and facilities there with public water, as well as the Inn at Taganic. That water line runs then up Taganic Park Road and down the road I live on, which is Falls Road, all the way into the village. The town and the village have been in discussions now for several years of relating to allowing grassroots folks who have Broadsway property to access public water. They were amenable to it. We're kind of still in process. The grassroots requested water but have not paid the sufficient engineering fees to like proceed to the next phase, but they did formally petition. And the village at that point had expressed, you know, casually that they are looking to sell water to other people. They have more water than they can handle. And so they have users there. They also are users that are accepting public water in the SureSave property. And on that stretch, there's a small water district as well. The thick black lines are the town-owned infrastructure that are the Jacksonville Water District, Water District 3. And with some very minor extensions, small extensions of the existing infrastructure, that's all over 30 years old. They paid off their loans a couple of years ago for that water district. I did provide some dashed lines. These are areas where there was interest expressed several years ago by the residents who live. They came to us actually from Route 96. Smart Start is the largest daycare facility in the town of Ulysses. They have insufficient water. They were hoping to be able to extend a connection from the existing Jacksonville Water District. MRV at the town's request put together plans to look at all options for how to bring water to them. One option being a connection from the village of Trumansburg down Route 96, the other being an extension of the Jacksonville Water District to their property and to some properties around them. So that's a dashed line. And then as a result of that public meeting, we had residents from the Rabbit Road neighborhood who came to us and expressed deep concerns about and frustration about the quality of their water in a lot of cases. And we're wondering if they could connect because they have neighbors who are at the intersection of Rabbit Run and South Street Extension who have public water being provided to them through those village lines. And so I know I was personally very surprised when I got involved and started looking at water issues in the town. About how much water infrastructure currently exists and what challenges the town, I have been informed, the town is dealing with for since at least the 1990s of trying to build connections into these water lines so that water in a more circular fashion. In our current incarnation, and this is what we talked about with the county, and they had no idea we were dealing with such significant water issues. We are wasting thousands of gallons of every year because our water district in many places looks like an octopus. And that is not the ideal structural type for a water district. So you see that endpoint at Cold Springs and Durling Road, we have to purge water from that line in order to keep it safe for our residents to drink over and over again every summer. The water district ended up having to pay for an aerator installation because the shape of this system and the fact that it was overbuilt over 30 years ago has meant that water does not sufficiently move through it in the summer on its own capacity and use capacity to sufficiently keep TTMs out of the water system. So back in the 2010s, the town got smacked around, rightly so, by the health department for having unsafe contaminants in our water related to TTMs. And we were under strict observation and the town ended up investing in building an aerator system that went into effect in 2021. And since that aerator system has been in operation and it runs April to November typically, we have not had another issue with TTM. So that was an additional piece of expensive infrastructure that we had to purchase on the water district's behalf in order to keep their water district safe. So these were things that were discussed at the comprehensive plan committee level quite extensively. The reality is this is not a new problem for the town. It's been an issue the town has been grappling with since the Jacksonville Water District was put in place. And the fact is we have a lot of residents who are currently on public water on village-owned lines, and the village has made it very clear that if those lines catastrophically fail, they aren't replacing them. They don't need the infrastructure. They don't need the revenue. They're not saving money up so that if those lines collapse, a new line is going to be there to replace it. They have expressed willingness if the town would be willing to take over those lines. But we're at the juncture where that's not necessarily a great choice at this exact moment. But ultimately, we need to do some environmental and engineering evaluations. Last year, I got a quote for over $60,000 for what it would take to do the engineering spec work that's necessary to even consider whether or not we can, the condition of these lines. We don't know. We know they're pre-1935, but we're not definitively sure on all the conditions, on all the materiality. And so engineering analysis would be to the tune of about $60,000. And at the end of that line is a brand new state-funded facility that will need increase in water when it finishes its building project this year. And so we're certainly not going to immediately be able to address any of this, but I do want to be very transparent with the public that we very strongly, and we shared this and had a very wonderful conversation. And I don't want to be the only person who speaks about that conversation, because I'm sure that there are other things that both Liz and Carissa and Niels, who's online, or Niels is
No,
not
it's
online, I saw the end and it's Nate. Nate was not on the call, could talk about, but they were not aware of the extensiveness of the water lines and, or the condition that some of them are in, at least based on their age. We certainly don't have the final conditions known, but, no engineer is going to tell you that something that predates 1935 in a water line is necessarily expected to be in great condition. So we had these conversations, and what am I missing from that meeting that you'd want to highlight?
Well, I think the county, what's his name?
David West?
David West was on the call as well. And one of the questions he asked was, what was the definition, or what were we looking and thinking of when we are talking about medium density residential? Because everybody's thoughts and perspectives of what medium density residential are different, which is what we've been hearing about throughout this whole process since we've brought this up. We reiterated to him that what we currently allow in our residential zoning district is what we envision the medium density residential area to be allowing. So the same types of facilities, single family duplexes. We brought up Jackson Heights as an example as the largest type of housing development that would be considered under the medium density. So I think it came to light that what we're looking at as medium density is very different than what you would look at if you were in the city as a medium density. And maybe in hindsight, changing a name a little bit, medium rural density or something, but I think the point is we're not looking to allow more housing types that aren't already allowed, with one exception, and that's the townhomes, than what's already allowed in our current zoning.
Even in the ag zone.
Duplexes, yes, and in the ag zone too. So duplexes, AUD, single family homes, those type of houses. So providing that context in addition to what Caitlin went through with the water and why we picked these areas and why we did change some of it, but left a lot of the orange. They were very appreciative of that understanding, and they thanked us for having a plan he specifically thanked us for having a plan that was focused on housing. And I think there's some opportunities for us to work with him. We may or may not do a housing study ourselves, but the county is doing a housing study right now. And I think there's an opportunity to work with them specifically and bring in some of our information, some of those details, and incorporate it into that study.
I have a comment and a question. So I appreciate that. I've been hearing a lot about, including from my own neighbors, about the area around Falls Road. And so on this map, it's the orange area on Falls Road. And then towards Cayuga View and Frontenac and that area being identified as medium density. And then I look at the current zoning map, and from what I'm hearing, this is the 2019, right?
That's right. So
Right.
there you go.
Apologies, sorry.
I think it's still the same point.
Yeah, they're the same. No, thank you. I think what I've been hearing is one of the challenges of our public discussion. I think we hear it a couple of the last meetings as well. And just making sure I understand this, the proposed future land use map is putting, if you will, putting color to a land use map that for the most part on, especially around Falls Road area, there are some changes, there's some extensions further east of what's currently available via zoning, right? Because and again, the challenges that we're similar colors and we're different maps. So agricultural rural zone right now that's running along Teganic, some of that or close to that becomes orange as medium density. Not all of it.
And yellow, low density.
Right, and low density.
Yep.
And but from what I've heard here, I think this is, and so now again, I'm a little. Our zoning, one of the things I thought I just heard you say was that in general, this future use land map is applying visuals to generally what we do, but this is a change in this area, right? We're moving from high agricultural rural to medium density and agricultural natural resource. So we're keeping some of it and then the low density. I'm hearing that right, correct? There is a change to allow for potentially more housing and development all, along Falls, but also coming down and through to Gigantic Park.
So, yes, so I mean, but I think we should talk about, and I will just be very transparent that I know that neighborhood very well, being
Right.
mine.
Yeah.
So my property doesn't even conform to the agricultural zone that it's located in. So the current zoning requires a 2 acre minimum,
Mhm.
and my property is 1.8 acres.
Right.
My house is the original part of my house dates to just after 1800. It's one of the oldest original pieces. And then there was an addition put on in 1848, and then there was some expansion. So it was it was a prominent house in that neighborhood. Not as prominent as the Halsey house. That's a fancier house than mine is. But it's an old house in that neighborhood. So I am currently in the ag zone,
Mhm.
and I have public water running across the road from me.
Mhm.
There is no chance that it's ever going to be agricultural. It has been 1.8 acres since it was subdivided in 1950. It's the old farmhouse that's associated with all the farming around
Right.
there. My house, my neighbor on Taganic Park next door, they have about 2.5 acres along Taganic Creek. You go
Mhm.
next one over. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at actually the parcels, those are pretty small parcels if you look
Right.
on the map. So there, if it could, this does set up the potential for a zoning change, but I don't think it would actually set up a change in actual use of these properties. Because like, what I'm gonna do, put another house on my property? Like, actually, I couldn't because I have NYSEG lines running there, and so I can't even build over there anyway, so it's not even a question about my property. But, those Falls Road on the south side
Mhm.
is, if you drive along it, it is far more developed than the north side. And so I think this is appropriate because we've had several houses that have been built since the 2000s. There are 3 different houses, 2 of them on that side of the road, one closer to Broke Cemetery that's on that side, that have been built there. The area at the intersection of Cuga View and Falls Road, there was a house that was built there. That's a housewares lived there. They built their house in the 1980s. They had lived in Jacksonville, and their property was contaminated by the ExxonMobil spill, which is why they built where they built.
Mhm.
So that's, they're still in their property that they developed. There's a very, very lovely home that I envy every time I drive past it. That's been built post 2000, large farming. It's a house with a lovely pond in front of it. So they're between me and the intersection of Cayuga View. There are 3 houses that have been built in the last couple of decades. New build houses. And those are all being built closer to the road, right? And then the agricultural fields run behind it. Some of those houses have agricultural fields connected. Some like mine have no connection. And then the area closest to the village, I don't know when the across the way property became residential, but I do know it was residential when it was purchased by Grassroots in 2017. So it predates. It's been nearly a decade that's been zoned. So the other thing I would say is if we look, and if we want to, we could go and look specifically at the definition of what constitutes medium density in the plan, which is we want to be considering access to public utilities and transportation corridors. And anybody who bikes or walks in our community knows that Falls Road is a very active transportation corridor
Mhm.
for bikers and walkers because of its proximity between the village of Trumansburg and Taganic State Park, which is why the state park, we've been having ongoing conversations, and the town got a grant to work with state parks a few years ago to put together a concept plan about extending the Black Diamond Trail because it's so heavily used by bikers and walkers. That's one of the things that's on a long-term vision for the state parks is to connect the village to the Black Diamond Trail, because the Black Diamond Trail the Black Diamond right away basically runs along Falls Road. You can actually see it on the map here.
Mhm.
So, you know, if you want to turn my house, and you can turn my house any color you want, it's not going to change what it's been for over 200 years. I mean, it's one of those things that the zoning to me is more reflective of the intentionality that medium density is supposed to be along areas that have access to public utilities. So we can make modifications to this, but I think it's important to understand that these are not arbitrary orange zones. These are not arbitrary medium density. These are in fact the direct visible connections to water lines or very likely water lines in the next 20 years. I certainly hope if I'm not on the board, I certainly hope someone who comes after me in the next 20 years can find a way to replace those pre-1935 water lines and extend water to people who live on them. Because I actually met with somebody who purchased a property on Pennsylvania Avenue. Their neighbors on either side have access to public water,
Mhm.
but they do not have access to public water because the village won't let anybody connect anymore. Because in order to be under state water law, you need to be part of a district,
Okay.
and the village doesn't want to manage districts outside the village of Trumansburg. That makes logical sense to me. And so we do have situations where if you build along any of these corridors, it doesn't mean you can currently access them, but your neighbors certainly, especially prior to the 1980s. It seems like it was a very laissez-faire approach. Can I have water? Yes, you may. And let's connect a line here. So that's kind of where we are. So I think it was helpful to the county. They actually in that call they thought the director of planning said they thought we did a good job on our plan. That was nice to hear. So I had questions because it felt like there was a bit of rinse and repeat with the exact same comments from the first one. And so I did want them to be sure to note that we did, make changes, especially over in the Indian Fort area, to recognize changes there, and also in the Agard Road section.
Can you talk a little bit about, I'm gonna change parts of the map, the west side of the village, north and south of Sebring? On the zoning map right now, it's residential, and then in the proposed usage, we're moving towards low density. But we heard tonight from the county, and we heard in their report, an encouragement to get people in proximity to the village. Are we changing, does this future use land map proposal change that zoning such that it would be less likely that we'd have more people moving, what to me would be in proximity, if we're assuming that this orange circle, well, orange on one, and orange, moving that to yellow?
I think, so right now, yes, it is zoned residential.
Mhm.
Especially the areas that are kind of surrounding the Sail Habitat area. West of Searsburg, or northwest of the Curry corner, and then south of Searsburg is agriculture. Farm fields that are actively farmed, and a horse farm on the one corner. But in that corner, the northeast corner of that intersection, Searsburg and Curry, there are several homes there now. I do not foresee knowing the topography there. There's a big creek behind there. It's where we're replacing the Curry Road.
Yeah, I was just out there the other day.
So there's steeper slopes in that area, and there's other topography. The creek, I don't think there's going to be an expansion of residential beyond what's already there now. I also don't see it being reverted back to agricultural at all. So one of the things in general, when the comprehensive plan steering committee was looking at these maps, was we wanted to take a honest look of what's actually out there and reflect that on the maps and take that into consideration when we're looking what the future is. So there are a lot of places like in that corner where, yes, there's houses there now. On the 2009 map, those are in agricultural land use areas. But as I mentioned, those areas are very likely never going to be reverting back to agriculture. The areas, so we wanted to reflect what is there now, which is why it's yellow, low red density residential.
reflecting what's there and also
Right,
there.
that's what I'm hearing. It's like we might be reflecting what's there now, but
And
does
then-
changing to a low density reflection, could we achieve the same goal that we're hearing from the county of saying that this could be medium density, even if practically it can't? Like, would that achieve some level of, we're hearing people, we're reflecting what the county wants? I'm just trying to understand we're reflecting what is there now, but if this is 20 years, so I'm just thinking about what we're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no water there. I don't see how water could get
Okay,
down that road either.
okay.
So that is one of the.
Yeah, I noticed there's no water lines. I see that.
That's over there.
We
That was
had-
So that's the,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a water
Okay.
tank.
there's a lot of tank, yeah.
But, which actually I was talking to somebody today on the phone and he was the developer of that tank. I
Really.
don't know. He's in Chemung County now, talking about a different project. So I think where we have the orange, we really try to limit to those areas where they either have current infrastructure or there really is a realistic potential that they could be expanded into those areas.
Right.
Curry Road, Searsburg Road, Podunk Road,
Mm-hmm.
to a point, we're not going to be expanding
Right.
water to those areas. Reynolds Road, Waterberg, like those are areas that are in the agricultural district. We want to keep those rural. They're having productive soils as we keep
Mhm.
hearing about. And yes, the ags and markets will not like to see water districts formed in there, and we don't either. We want to keep those as agricultural lands.
Right.
So we at one point had some more yellow in this corner too, and an earlier version of the future land use map. But after much discussion, we ended up keeping this area, which is recognized as the county as a highly productive agricultural area, as agricultural.
Yeah, I appreciate the last week meetings. I think it was last meeting, our long explanation and talking about the water lines. I think that's a helpful piece of information to hear as we think about when or if people are moving through this area, we can be encouraging them to move where there is water or potentially will be water, right? Based on the possibility of demand coming to those areas.
And that's what I see as the future. One of the advantages of the future land use map is, like, I know for my clients, if they want to build a certain type of project, we look at the comprehensive plan, we look at the zoning,
Mhm.
we see which areas are kind of targeted for certain types of development. We're not going to go and propose a huge industrial power plant in the middle of Waterberg and Perry City Road. You know, like we don't have the infrastructure. It's not feasible. It's going to be inconsistent with anything that the town has planned. So it would never pass through planning or zoning.
Right.
So one of the other advantages of this future land use map is if, say, there's somebody who wants to come in and build another Jacksonville Heights, we
Mhm.
want to focus them on areas where we want them to be. We don't want them out there in
Right.
rural areas. We want them along 96 where there's water and connections. We want them along Cold Spring where there's potential for connection into the existing water line. And Bolton Point would want us to focus there too, because like Caitlin's mentioned, that's a huge issue area for them with that dead end structure hydrant there.
Right, so
So looking at the orange areas would be where somebody coming in could focus as having more residential.
Well, and the other component of that too, and mindful of public comment with concerns that just making something, you know, there's a Vivian Rose made a comment, I believe, that just because you make something allowed doesn't mean affordable, or, you know, when I say affordable, I'm not talking about low income, I'm talking
Right.
about affordable for our community housing. It doesn't necessarily mean all by itself that will produce that kind of housing.
right,
What we talked to back at the last Tompkins County Council of Government TCOG meeting, David West from the county presented about pro-housing communities. The Village of Trumansburg, the pro-housing community, and there are basically, if you want any housing related money from the state, you have to become a pro-housing community. There's no, because we looked for money in this current funding cycle to see if there was any money available for a housing plan. And because we're not a housing community, pro-housing designated community, we are not eligible for funding. The state has tied it very strongly to that. And so, but as becoming part of considering being a pro-housing community, there's also recognition that there are incentivizations in place for housing that you can create within your municipal government that encourage and support certain types of housing that you want to see happen. So there are ways to pre-approve certain designs. There are ways to speed up the building code review process. There are ways to consider a site plan in advance so that you cut down on the soft costs associated. So while changing land use alone does not necessarily make it more likely that people are going to build the kind of housing our community has very clearly said that number one source of dissatisfaction in the comprehensive plan survey was with a diversity of housing options. Number one, data now shows that over 25%, effective in this year, the data shows that 25%, just over 25% of our households are housing stressed. These aren't fact. This is not fake. This is a reality for a lot of people. And I think it's a reality that if you, especially like I think we're probably, and Wardenhart mentions this too. He and Lindsay bought their house in the 2010s. Or no, before that, right before the 2010s, 2008, maybe somewhere in that range. We bought ours in 2012. In 2012, Caitlin could not afford 2026's Caitlin's house. It's just not possible. Like how much prices have gone up in our community. And so I think people who have experienced that have the housing prices have gone up so considerably that if you are someone who is trying to access housing in the last decade or so, it's a very different experience than if you were trying to access housing 20, 30 years ago, in terms of what you can afford. And I think that stress is proving real for our school district. And
When you say housing stress, can you that's an example you gave, but what's a definition that you're
so it's
using?
related to the percentage of income they're having to put towards paying for their housing, the percentage of income.
Okay, that's
It's
what
putting
I
that
figured.
Yeah.
And those are people who live here now.
Yes,
Who are
those are
saying,
people who live
okay,
here now, our current household.
cost of living, if around the house tied to their income as a
Yes.
percentage. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. So, and I shared that link out in the newsletter a couple weeks ago, in my newsletter, article. And so, that's more recent information, that kind of reinforces what we heard from the public and what I've heard from the public is, that housing is a priority, and housing, quite frankly, was never a chapter created in any previous comp plan for the town of Ulysses. So it's not in the 99 or the 2009 version. So we are the first ones at this juncture to identify housing as important. And I think the data shows that it is.
And just because something is orange or yellow or even blue or purple or any other color doesn't mean that that's automatically what it's going to change to.
Okay.
So it's your land use, the owner of the property still within zoning laws has the right to do what they want with their property.
Okay.
And then potential new buyers have the option to continue that use or change it. But if they want to change it, then they'll have to go through what's going to be the applicable or the zoning and the land use at that time. So just because we're showing this housing, we may not get it. But honestly, the likelihood is we probably won't. But it creates opportunities, which is something that the comprehensive steering committee was talking a lot about, was opportunities for housing growth, but opportunities for commercial growth, focused on Jacksonville area for the most part, or we're existing on far. But additional commercial uses are also how we can lower taxes, because there's a different taxpayer paying for it. We don't always want to rely on the residential properties to pay the taxes. We can release that burden and open opportunities for more mom and pop shops or farm stands or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Then we should be doing that.
So you mentioned the purple, some colors might be include purple. Could we heard about
Yes.
the legacy business and Cuyahoga Compost and Excavating. Can we talk about how this map is using parceling breakout as well as the legacy number and like what that might have an impact?
So, and actually the county asked about the bubble or blob.
Right, yeah,
future land use maps
I've had a
for-
conversation about pros and cons of bubbles versus parcels.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, and we had received feedback from or she was then current member of the BZA and existing board members on the planning board.
Okay.
That when they're evaluating projects and going through the checklist of whether a project is in compliance or consistent with the comprehensive plan, that they felt like this detail with the district or the land parcels being shown would be beneficial. And the example that Caitlin, you brought up yesterday with the county was Teganic Falls. So Teganic Falls is
Yeah, same way.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
not the one I did. I think Niels brought it up. Niels is on.
maybe Niels. Oh, Niels is on too. I
Yeah,
That was
so
like
Niels brought this
commercial
one up.
mixed use.
So that is
down
commercial
there,
mixed use, but then it also is an environmental protection area.
Right.
So when the owner came in looking to do some additional work, which area do you compare it to? Do you just look at it consistent with the commercial? Do you look at it consistent with the environmental protection area? Obviously, those two things are gonna show very different
Sure.
responses to those questions. So, it is more granular than we ever
Yeah.
have been before, but it's not like this happens. There's plenty of other towns in the state and even in our county that have parcel future land use map.
And that-
Niels, I was just,
Sorry.
if Niels or if you're on, I was just wondering if you could speak to that also, because I thought what you said at the meeting with the county yesterday was really helpful too.
Yeah, I mean, Liz gave a really good overarching concept. The property owner in Ataganek wanted to do some improvements to the site. And normally that would just go through site plan review under zoning regs. But as part of the review, the planning board also, like Liz mentioned before, they look at the comp plan, they look at the guidance and the rules and policies, because sometimes zoning regs don't provide the full picture, unfortunately, and so you have to rely on guidance and recommendations. And when you look at a blob map, and again, blob maps, in my opinion, as a professional planner, are great when a municipality doesn't exactly know what or where it wants to go. It's like a community character area map. I firmly recommend that all future land use maps be parcel driven. But that aside, when they were looking at the property, because there are two different blobs, they weren't exactly sure where the proposed development was lying. And so they went more for the conservative because it's generally better to err on the side of conservancy. So a lot of confusion, definitely on the part of planning board members on that particular project.
And what we also talked about with the county in regards to like the blob versus the more precise parcel by parcel is the fact that there are circumstances even right now where in the town that the zoning lines fall differently than the parcel boundaries. This doesn't
Right.
preclude us in the future from splitting it. So it's good case in point. When the Pritts donated the land to the town,
Yeah.
their house is part of that land, right? Their house is in it's in the residential zone on Cold
Okay.
Springs. Their acreage behind was in the agricultural zone. And so there is room for nuance in the zoning map. And I think that the Cuga compost is a really good example of that. But you have to pick a lane, right? You have to pick the bubble or you pick the parcel. It's really hard for a future land use map to start subdividing properties in this way. So I'm sorry, Matt's you have a thought, Matt?
I just want, there was the specific concern raised during the public hearing as it relates to the property we're talking about was, hey, all of this property, you've got this designated as legacy business, but all of this property is not a business. A lot of this property is an agricultural use. And if you actually dig into the plan's definition of legacy business, it gets a lot more specific because it is a special designation. It gets a lot more specific than some of the other districts or character areas in that it says This is intended to recognize existing business uses on the site and not to allow for intensification or change in the typology of the use or the interaction of the use with the surrounding landscape. So if someone looked at that and said, whoa, legacy business, and this is an industrial site, now we can make this whole 100+ acres industrial, that wouldn't fly. And actually it triggers, or it asks the zoning to trigger a deeper PUD type review, which would also come back to the town.
And
And
that was
One
getting
point
into
we
my
had it as
follow-up.
industrial. We had it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And
industrial.
then there was a lot of concern brought up with that, so that's how we came to be, or well, variety of reasons we came up with this legacy business to kind
Sure.
of lump
Yeah.
the development districts that don't really quite fit into places. And then some of the other features within the town, like the golf course that still don't quite fit into a specific character area or not.
So when this is passed and then 2 years later, zoning is happened or done or in process or it's not, when someone new purchases this parcel, how does that plan? I think you were getting at that. This is so currently it's the legacy, but someone new purchases it and says, I'm not interested in being excavating anymore. We're gonna do something else. Would they have to come to us to change this map or talk to zoning about where, because would they be zoned? And I don't know if my question's super clear.
No, I
You-
get,
you got it.
so currently, interesting, this is a fun one to talk about because it's not a development district currently. It's currently agricultural,
Okay,
but there's nothing agricultural about the front part of that, really.
Right. Like a good portion of it.
Right,
Sure.
but the road front, like the
Yeah.
business itself.
yeah, the part we drive by, right?
And we, there was a meeting that happened with, folks from the Jacksonville Community Association, and I don't know if anybody here was here. I know we had some folks from it was at the comp plan steering committee level. But Chrissy, you were here for that, weren't you? Oh, no, it was Lori. Lori was the clerking board, sorry.
Yeah.
But we had folks in that neighborhood, and that's when we heard feedback from the Agard Road neighbors. They're like, hey, we want to lower the intensity. We're not going to get public water. We know, we think our current land patterns are probably pretty stable. We're not seeing a lot of new construction as it is.
Okay.
So we had a meeting and we talked specifically about Cuda compost and what some of the neighbors shared at that point who live on Agard was that they are thoroughly happy with the business that exists. That business has been there since the 1950s.
Mhm.
It's a long-standing business that is actually not reflected in our current zoning as anything special. And there is a risk to them that if they sold that business, that so what if they sold the business and it sat for 18 months or 2 years or outside of a period of time, it could lose its use. for that business.
Grandfathered in.
It won't continue to be grandfathered in. You can
Right.
turn around and continue
Okay.
to operate it in its current form, but there are things that could change that could trigger it to no longer being used in that way. And what the neighborhood said is, what the conversation involved was that we are happy with them. They've been around longer than we have, in terms of, that's what the neighbors were saying. But that if it was another business, we would want it to make sure that it was compatible with our neighborhood, and the compatible, not the same, but compatible with. And so transitioning to, these, and Niels, maybe you can explain, I know you can explain it better than I can. But the idea is that there's a process for if a transition needs to happen to transition that and to recognize that this is a unique space, because that business, quite honestly, could be threatened by the fact that its land use on its current zoning does not conform to its use. Right? That's that's not ideal, right? We don't want that property to sit vacant or unused for 18 months or however long it would take to trigger this, and then have to go to the BZA for a variance because it's not compliant with zoning. So the idea was to kind of reflect what was there, but also with the legacy businesses provide stability, right? Glenwood Pines is listed on here.
Mhm.
Glenwood Pines has been around for quite a while. Glenwood Pines, I hope continues, from my lips to God's ears. I hope it continues in its current form. I think it's a great business. But at some point they may choose to sell to somebody who wants to, I don't know, what's another use that you could throw in there that would be compatible, but not the same.
Coffee shop.
There you go. What's a restaurant? I'm
That's
trying to
restaurant,
think of
the same
something like a
thing.
restaurant.
My other
Um,
option was a gas station, which was gonna go the opposite of what you're thinking.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like a reading room or something like that. A retail facility,
Sure.
a grocery store.
Okay.
I'm thinking about other kinds of uses. And this would set them up so that the community could identify if it's transitioning to another compatible use, or, it's simply that's actually not legacy business, commercial.
No,
already,
it's
isn't it?
commercial, but
Sorry, that was sorry.
commercial.
I got to call them out as
Yeah,
another one.
yeah,
Who's another one? Oh, Spruce Row. Spruce Row is listed on
Yeah.
there. Spruce Row could be
That's
a
not
variety of
my
other
neighborhood.
things, right? It could be a variety of other
Mhm.
things in its current incarnation. And I think that neighborhood would say, again, this is something that's been around since the 1960s. I don't think I've never heard a single neighbor say that they want Spruce Row to go away. Not to me, that'll say to me. Maybe there are aspects of the visitors that they are not super excited about, but I don't think anybody's clamoring for their business to cease to exist. But what if campgrounds aren't a thing that work anymore? Then
Right.
what happens with this property? Should it have to be residential? Should it have to be commercial? Should it have to be agriculture? We're not saying that we know the answer, but we want to build in sustainability to that property and those owners, that it can transition to a new potential use, frankly, maybe that we can't even conceive of now. So that's the idea with the legacy businesses, is that it's not just turning it commercial. We could have chosen to just turn it commercial, which that blows off the barn doors, right, on what could be there.
Yeah.
And, the one thing everybody's, threats, and we talked about this, the threat is always McDonald's is coming. McDonald's is not coming to Agard Road. But if we turn that commercial, a McDonald's could come to Agard Road. Does it make sense from McDonald's business model? No, it does not. But that's the example. So it was a way to recognize, to allow a future potential, reasonable change without making it commercial, and then it could be anything that's commercial. That didn't feel right either.
In general, the legacy business made sense to me. I wanted us to talk briefly about that particular example that we'd heard about.
And I think a few different people on the steering committee had discussions with the landowner.
Okay.
There was a couple
sounds
mentions
familiar.
during the call or during the meetings that are all publicly available, but they were comfortable with what we're proposing and explain why, because I think they actually had a first initial reaction when it was read industrial. They're like, whoa, we're not
We're
industrial.
not industrial.
So, yeah, we had taken that into consideration, changed it. And then the one other thing you mentioned was the zoning. So yes, I mean, one of the next steps after the plan is adopted is ultimately, zoning we'd be looking to update zoning to be reflective of the future land use map.
Right.
But our zoning districts do not necessarily end up being each of these future land use categories. I provided last week the overlap that Niels had previously prepared. So like what our current agricultural rural zone is right now could consist of our agriculture and natural resources lands, as well as the rural residential. What we currently have on our zoning map, and again, zoning districts can change names and things too, but our residential zone could ultimately end up being a combination of our low density residential land use and a medium density residential land use, because again, what we are looking at for medium density residential is what's already allowed in our residential zoning district. So it would make sense if that was kind of related to those two. I'm not gonna go through every single one.
No, I
but
think
there
that's
was
fine.
that chart that he had put together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you happen to have it, Michael, wasn't here, maybe you can share.
Right. Yeah, no, my question was like, I had this visual of like the zoning overlay sitting above Cayuga, waiting for the 18 months. Does it like slam down? Would zoning come in and say, now we need to look at this legacy business that is now no longer that, and identify a zone for that? Or could they paint a brush that, skips over that space until it becomes appropriate?
Well, so that step is not a step we answer tonight. That's the step that's answered in zoning.
During zoning, okay.
So
Then
basically,
that's a fine.
if this is adopted tonight or adopted 3 years from now, the zoning hasn't changed.
Sure.
The
Okay.
zoning, that is the law. The zoning is the law.
Yes.
And then, I would say there's no possible way that in 2 years the zoning has been.
Understood.
It's just gonna be a longer timeline than that, functionally. But until the zoning is changed, the zoning that exists is the zoning that's the law of the land.
Okay.
And so and in fact, and Nate's online, and so if we have questions for Nate as we go through the process, please ask him, please ask Niels, who's also available. There are situations where the zoning doesn't change, like there, I am at, and so I will publicly state personally, I don't want to see a lot of changes, if any, really substantively in the conservation and lakeshore zone.
No.
Because those folks went through a massive zoning change around 2017. And what I've heard from them, and I haven't heard from all of them, but I've heard from a lot of them, is that they are satisfied with their zoning process that transpired. So, I mean, I could see a scenario where, you know, some things are changed, some things aren't. But that doesn't ever stop the landowner continuing to use their properties they're able to. You can farm in every single part of this, right? Like
right.
that is an allowed use throughout the town. And so, you know, for some of these parcels, it really doesn't matter to the property owner, right? The individual property owner, what the parcel is, because they're going to continue to use it as they enjoy it. And as they want to. But as a community vision, you know, we're putting the thought into, if we were incentivizing, if we were encouraging, where do we want to see that development to go based on what the public said? And the public said, right, they wanted to see it concentrated near the village and along Route 96.
Mhm.
So,
I don't wanna hone in necessarily on zoning because it's not,
That's not what we're
Really
doing,
into-
right?
but-
Yeah.
there was a comment earlier about doing a zoning analysis. Is that something, that's one of the goals, like to look at our zoning code right now, right? And to do an analysis of what areas are, maybe let's see, put this too. What areas should be strengthened, which areas are not applicable anymore, what the new zoning district should be called. Do we propose, or that's one of the next steps after the plan is adopted. That doesn't happen during the plan adoption or before plan adoption, but it comes after a comprehensive plan is adopted as the next step. And should be done before zoning is changed. We had talked about that, and I can't remember if it was in this meeting or the comprehensive steering committee meeting. That's one of the next changes, whether the next kind of action items after planning.
yeah, so consider research and analysis, including housing studies and zoning audits to identify strategies to increase housing supply and affordability. Ulysses, that's
I guess I could have looked it up. Didn't.
That's on page 152.
And that would align with, as we go through a process or wait, as the process starts, Tompkins presenting a housing study, their information would feed into that zoning report and research.
So,
No.
and this is on page 155. Consider conducting a target industry analysis to identify target industries based on data. So that would probably go to, you know, contribute to zoning right, of where we want to target information to be. Is there another word? I'm doing a search.
No, I think it was more just to recognize that, yes, we realize there are steps to be done before the zoning update is done.
Yeah.
Those steps can be done concurrently or consecutively, depending on staff and volunteer availability and willingness to join new committees, but that all comes after the adoption of the plan.
Yeah, I'm just doing there.
And just a note that as part of any zoning update process the first piece would be an existing code audit, an existing zoning audit. That would be scoped in your zoning update. To run against alignment and such adopted future land.
We've just been chatting about some of the comments we've heard today and been hearing throughout the whole process on the land use map, specifically medium density, but then we also gave an update. We had a meeting yesterday. That's yesterday, right? Yeah. This has been a long week already with the county regarding their 239 letter. The comments that they had sent in that letter last week were the same comments as the one that they sent us back in March to the steering committee when we requested them to do a soft review. So it was the same comments, and we had taken their comments in at the time into consideration and made a lot of changes, medium density locations and
Adding in
a resource conservation area, both from their perspective and then also some residences and others that we've heard during public comment. So we just check.
Thank you.
Would you mind going over, I'm sorry, what's the kind of stuff on here?
No, it's fine. It was just.
I thought maybe you could go over, I mean, there were some comments made tonight that we haven't made any environmental changes based on comments. Such, and last meeting, which we covered, you prepared and we've discussed.
Yeah, I mean, we had discussed, I know. I would be able to find it, but we had received some comments about specific read from Rebecca that I thought were very valid and agreed with proposing to make those amendments into the document. And I believe, well, actually, I know in the draft, the version that was posted on Friday, there's additional language regarding the prime ag soils, the agricultural soils that we have in the town, especially in the southwest corner of the town. And then there's some additional language that was brought in regarding invasive species and some of the risks and concerns that climate change bring to environmental resources. We updated the wetlands information because the wetland regulations have changed again since the draft plan was put out. So we went back and Jessica prepared some language that talks about the current state of the wetland regulations as it stands right now. And then the updated the T&E species discussions and descriptions were done. And then I believe there was also in my notes, not together, but there were several comments those were similar comments, I believe, that Rebecca had previously brought up. Maybe she didn't, somebody else did. And they should have been addressed earlier. But I know there are several comments that Roxanne specifically had brought up in the comp plan steering committee meeting that we walked through, and we did provide additional language on the environmental resources that we have in here. And we adopted a lot of the recommendations she had proposed to beef up the environmental area. So talking about educational opportunities and bringing in some additional language on climate change. I think you worked directly with Jessica on some language about climate change specifically, which I know was another comment that was brought up today that we haven't been listening, but that is actually not the case. We have been listening. It was acknowledged that we don't always agree. There have been a lot of discussions, both at the steering committee, and just for the record, there's no discussions that we've ever had outside of this meeting, anything that was related to the comprehensive plan. So we don't talk about things, and we haven't had an executive session, and there's no other email like discussions outside of that than what you guys hear here. So if we haven't gone through the comment, I can acknowledge that I've read it. There's a lot of overlap on comments, so maybe we didn't bring it up specifically, but we might have. We tried to bring it up one way or another, but it wasn't anything intentional. If your exact comment wasn't brought up.
In recognition of the conversations and comments about environment and climate change, did we move climate change up in the report, recognizing that where things are with a ranking of importance also, as people think about what's the priority in a long document. So that was something we wanted to put up front after hearing, making sure people thought about that and highlighted it. I don't have the note where it moved, but it went
It's right after
right after land use, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Chapter.
think it became.
No, I think it's land use,
chapter-
housing, then climate change.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it became 3 or it became 4 or 5, okay.
It's housing's 4. Don't ask me why. But
No, it's number 3. It's above housing.
is-
Yeah, I see. I
That's
know
why
it,
housing
right.
is 4,
Right.
because my
Yeah.
version still has
So it's the
housing is 3.
introduction and then land use and real issues and then
Oh,
climate
okay.
change and resiliency and then housing.
alright.
So, and I
mean,
think it's
that's
appropriate.
The way
that
that
it-
it's goes.
Yeah,
Oh, the old one. Yep.
that'll do it. That was supposed to.
Okay.
Which is where I asked for it to be. Was there more discussion on there? We do have, and they're available to the public also. There were a series of, I think I gave away all of mine. These are resolutions that were, I can grab them out. I will. No, I don't want any of those. Okay. So. So. These are the two. First one is the draft, rest of the full draft, 45 comprehensive plan that were circulated earlier. And I wrote these in conjunction with talking to the town attorney who's online, in response to the meeting with county planning. So do you guys have this available? This one? Yep.
It's permanent, yeah. So this one.
Yes, I think so. Yep, that's the right one. Yep, so I think the idea being a picture is 1,000 words. I think replacing but in the first one is replacing, I'm recommending that we replace the low density stock photo on page 57 with a photograph of Waterberg. I'm proposing Waterberg. Because that is a very lovely part of a low density designated area. And so thought maybe that including a picture of Waterberg would be appropriate. Not the folks of Waterberg, but the housing type. And so I'm suggesting that and then the next one is that for the medium density residential to include to add Jacksonville Heights on Route 96 as an example of what we're talking, because we literally and we talked about that with the county planning, and they, my impression, and others who were on the call can correct me, was that they were amenable to that.
Are you talking the duplexes?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because I think the mobile park is it Jackson Heights?
that's why.
Washington, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, so this would be the duplexes.
Yeah.
And then also adding that as an example of medium density residential, and then including a photograph of that property to replace the stock photo. I think the stock photo of medium density is which has a sidewalk and things like that, is not truly representative of what
Right.
our residential zones in the town look like currently or could. So, these, we'll take them one at a time. So I'll move the resolve in the comprehensive plan to replace the low density stock photo on page 57 with a photo of Waterberg to be provided to MRB group by the town plan.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. And then resolved in the draft to add Jacksonville Heights on Route 96 as an example to the examples on page 58 of medium density residential.
Second.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on that particular one? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then to replace the stock photo of medium density on page 58 with a photo of Jacksonville Heights to be provided to the MRB group by the town planner.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
While we're on this page.
Yeah.
Looking at page 56, because MRV is still here. The image on 56, the caption is concept photo. Is that the concept of the rural area, or is it a concept of a photo that could be something else? Because the other two don't have like information below them, so
Maybe to leave
I
that.
think that might be that could be a carryover for a placeholder.
yeah, that's
What you want, like of the format for
Right.
the page.
okay.
I'd probably.
So that's, is that a typo? It's probably, is that a just residual?
Yeah, I would suggest striking that. It's not within reference to the photo.
Okay.
To the content.
Striking the,
Striking concept
oh,
photo.
that, not the
from-
photo.
No, not necessarily the photo.
I like the photo.
Pretty.
Steve, you wanna move that?
Sure, I would move to strike the subscript concept photo under the image on page 56.
Nothing.
Any further discussion on concept photo labeling? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then there was, Steve and I were in discussions today and, I put this forth as a resolution, just as a draft, so we could talk about it if we wanted to change it. This is the Outlook one.
Yep.
Resolved to amend the future land use map to change the Hinging Post neighborhood from low density to medium density to better reflect existing land uses.
Right now it's this low density.
So, and we can have a conversation about it. The reason, and Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason it was kept at low density is because it doesn't have water.
That was gonna be my follow-up tonight,
And
after a
it-
long conversation.
Yeah,
tonight.
so it doesn't have water, so that's like, again, like the part and the other part of the, you
That's
know.
the dividing line.
That was the dividing line,
Right.
so I mean, I'm happy to go with whichever way the board wants to go on this one. That's the rationale though, behind that one. It is, you know, it's a denser neighborhood. It is a lovely walkable within its own neighborhood. It just doesn't have access to public utilities and probably would have a hard time getting them anytime soon. But that's how it resulted
Okay,
in the
that's-
coloration.
This, for people listening, and because we talked about how we're not talking outside of this meeting, I asked Caitlin earlier today I'd like to have a conversation about this section just because it stood out to me. I have some friends who live on and right around Hinging Post, so I said, in our conversations about medium density, it's like, that feels like what we're talking about, but I think we've gotten to access to public water, having it or potentially having it being a dividing descriptor is valuable to know. And I'm comfortable either direction at this point. But that's good information. Thank you.
And actually, David West asked the same question yesterday.
Okay.
He asked like for,
Yes, it's not just me.
yes,
Exactly.
like he was asking when we were talking about the medium density and what we were like considering. And he's like, would Hinging Post be an example of what you're like the Hinging Post neighborhood,
Right.
like an example of the medium density? And we had the same, just yes,
It
like
could
in
be,
theory, that
yeah.
is like the level of density of housing that we're considering as medium density, but that particular area doesn't have water.
Yeah.
So, calling it, but that is what we're kind of
Right,
envisioning
exactly. Yeah, I
as
think
medium density.
that's why,
As the high, I actually think that's the denser side of
I do
medium
too.
density.
yeah,
that
I would
think
agree.
of.
Yeah.
The other thing, just to remind folks, the medium density residential, the area that has to be left undeveloped that we're saying you have to meet to be in the medium density area is 50%
Or more.
So if you have 1 acre
Per
lot-
parcel, right?
per
Okay.
parcel, so if you have a 1 acre lot, the most you could develop on there is half an acre. So you're not gonna be building a huge Jackson Heights on 1 acre. Now if you buy multiple acres, you can do it, but there is only a 50%, the maximum developable space on what we're looking at as medium density is half an acre.
And the other thing I would say is when if the public is concerned, we're talking outside of meetings. We are saying we are not talking as a board outside of meetings.
Mhm.
We follow the open meetings rules. We are not as a board, like secretly, like apparently how it used to happen in the good old days. the 1970s, that someone who was involved told me, is we do not have like meetings in the clerk's office and then like make all the decisions and then come here and then share our plans. Like, that's not it. But there's nothing outside of open meetings that, there's nothing problematic, and Nate can speak up if we're doing something wrong. Steve and I having a conversation, just the two of us, is not a public meeting. It's not a town board meeting. We are not a quorum. We have no ability to take action. So us having a conversation, and I will say, I've had conversations with board members. I've had conversations with a lot of members of the public about this. This has been an ongoing source of dialogue for a couple of years now. So, and those have been very fruitful. Just want to clarify. So Steve, you're not doing anything wrong by emailing me independently and engaging in.
No, but I also want to thank you for, let's clarify, and I'm reaching out to say, because I wasn't sure I wanted to propose a resolution. I wanted to say, let's talk real quick about it rather than going through the process. And
Well, and so I just prepared it, so everybody
as a
can
resolution.
have same access, and if, do you feel comfortable keeping as is, or would you like to propose moving to medium density?
I think if we're gonna be called to answer the question about what is and why is medium density, then knowing that water is a crucial defining feature. Like, if that's because that's what I'm taking, then I'm leaning towards leaving Hinging Post as is based on water.
So
But
this is,
visually, I feel like it's,
Low density.
yeah,
so this is the definition.
Yeah.
Medium density residential land use designation is established primarily to accommodate housing at a medium density scale, including missing middle housing. Currently served or anticipated to be served by public water and or sewer facilities.
Right.
These areas are generally outside a hamlet or planned neighborhood node.
That's a plan.
That's on page 58.
Yep.
Is that outside of Hamlin?
Outside a hamlet or a planned neighborhood node.
I almost wonder if that might be considered a planned neighborhood.
I was
That's
gonna
what I
say,
was
does this feel like a planned neighborhood node?
Planned is Hinging Post, do you think a planned neighborhood node? Neil's, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Does feel like that.
I mean, it was definitely planned as a development, designed around that, so.
So anybody know how big the lots are?
I don't off the top of my head now. They look like a couple acres on,
Yeah, there's definitely,
I can't,
A long time since I've been there.
yeah, it's like,
it's a beautiful
my
neighborhood.
buddy said on like two and a half, yeah, so. And they're all, they're very similar. Houses on the left-hand side. Huh,
Yes, so to me, for us, I think it would be medium density.
it feels like medium density, so I'm just straddling,
Yeah.
literally straddling the water line as we've worked it into the definition here.
Yeah.
But it will never be perfect. I could imagine people living on Hinging Post feeling similar to a person living, in the Falls River region because of their closeness, or even more so, they might feel even higher density than and then be labeled as low density.
Well, the other
Changes
advantage might be that they may want water in the future, and there is a water line that's not very far from there. And this
Mhm,
might set
yeah,
them up
that's
to
right
be
here.
eligible for accessing water that's in keeping with the comprehensive plan. So there's value there.
Yeah, because it does say or anticipated to be served.
I mean, it would not be very far to stretch that water
I
line.
mean, one of our water tanks is not too far away from there.
No, you can see right, there's a little black,
Yeah.
a little teeny black line next to the orange there. So, I mean, there's, conceivably good.
Yeah, it's number 4.
Yeah.
It's like two houses, 2 or 3 on it.
Like, how are there 4 houses, maybe 5 on Water District 4? Three.
Another potential benefit of changing the designation is that when you move to update your zoning, if you're trying to align zoning with some pre-existing non-conforming uses, it would be an easier map over, right?
Yeah,
You wouldn't be swimming against the tide because it's laid out in the future land use map as low density.
sure. Well, you won me over. I was like, no, it doesn't have water, but I could see that being a future.
I'll make the motion. We amend the draft future land use map to change Hinging Post neighborhood from low density to medium density to better reflect existing land uses.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So those are the resolutions that were shared. Is there more discussion you want to have on any comments that were made tonight or anything else about the plan that you wanted to explore? I feel like the sustainability of my office has been compromised by the comprehensive plan. Not my favorite. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking.
I mean, in terms of the comment about hearing from DEC and Ag Markets. They got the request for the lead agency, but then they also got the request for review of the document. And to date, we haven't heard from either one of them.
I mean, there have been conversations back and forth, in terms of like, so Jessica from MRB was the one communicating with Ag and Markets. I was communicating also with the DEC because they asked a follow-up question, and a memo that we provided. So we provided a memo to them. Niels, when did we originally submit stuff to Ag and Markets before this round?
I want to
You
say
look-
both. Yeah, I want to say both was maybe in October.
Yeah. So there was a big long draft memo that was put together as part of the comprehensive plan that Niels put together. And that was submitted to Ag and Markets. That was submitted to the DEC. We got soft comments back from the DEC. Those are in the packet. Those are in the comments that we received. So they had a touch there. We went back and forth. They asked a question about getting another copy of that. We sent it to them and they just haven't provided comments. Ag and Markets, it sounds like also they're, I think everybody is strapped, to be perfectly honest, and it's not a parallel system, but I can tell you that like the town is dealing with an unemployment claim that we don't think is legitimate in terms of like when that we should have to pay it. And Nate, maybe you can pipe up because I know you have another client running into the same boat. We literally cannot get on the phone with anybody from the unemployment office in state. We have emailed, we have sent letters by fax, we have submitted things by email, and literally there is not a phone number you can call to dispute charges they are leveling, saying you owe this money. And so I'm not saying there are parallel departments, but I am saying New York State seems to not be funding their department sufficiently to actually provide discretionary comments. So they were asked for, but the state is not required to give them. And at this point, we have the soft comments from DEC, and the Ag and Markets has had our request in for discretionary comments, but to date has not provided anything. With no indication, they're like, hey, if you gave us another week, we can get it to you. It's not
Right.
like
Okay.
I can confirm that I can't confirm lack of funding on their part, but I can confirm difficulty in getting comments back.
not for lack of trying on our part. And I think that's part of the reason that they're considered discretionary under state law and not mandated by state law. This is not a mandatory, they have to provide you written comments on actions the town takes. So Nate, I think, Nate and Niels and Matt, I think if there aren't any further questions, the next step is we can start talking about the environmental components. We have environmental, we already did part one previously, and comments that came back, I'm correct in saying that, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is that no one flagged any environmental comments in the FEAF process that FEAF, not SEAF. That's the longer one. We're doing the full form, sorry, not short myself. So no comments back. No one else wanted to be lead agency either. So we can start going through part two. And it's been identified, and Matt, do you want to help walk us through this, please?
Sure. So, it's okay.
Yeah, please come on up.
Um,
Hanging on.
so just, open by saying there's a comprehensive plan or any plan, any policy document can be challenging to review under seeker. Seeker was largely built for physical action, right? And so when you read through the questions on an environmental assessment form, it's asking you about things that would be drawn in by a specific activity or a specific action. And so the state has interpreted and reviewed. For the first thing the state does is say, hey, no matter what, just so you know, a comprehensive plan, it's explicitly listed, a comprehensive plan is a type 1 action. So it is something that's going to require that full environmental assessment, which we have worked with the town to complete. But then guidance goes on to say that when you're considering whether an action has an environmental impact, particularly a significant environmental impact, which is what the seeker process is trying to identify, that a policy action is most likely to result in a speculative environmental impact, right? Versus something that you could reasonably foresee happening. So in the examples that have been shared throughout the public comment process and in some of the questions tonight about this negative declaration, we used zoning as an example. Zoning by itself will not necessarily or even foreseeably result in increased development. The supervisor noted that you try to remove barriers to development, but simply zoning a parcel does not necessarily produce development. And so the lens that we look at this through, under guidance from state environmental folks at DEC, under copious legal review over the years, is that because there's not a straight line connection and there's not a foreseeable action that's going to evolve from simply adopting the comprehensive plan, that it would be difficult to demonstrate that a foreseeable direct environmental impact, especially a significant one, could be identified. So I just want to say that because as we go through these questions, you're going to hear me say, this is a policy document. We don't envision any environmental impact. And I just don't want you to feel like we use that as some kind of a parachute out. That was something that we developed through research, both at the DEC level and through legal interpretation over time.
And I was just gonna say that this is a different process than Three Falls LBC is going through with our concept plan. So we hired a consultant and developed a concept plan, and that concept plan literally says, we propose building parking here, we're putting a playground here, we're gonna do a waterfront trail here, at X, Y, and Z, we're gonna repair the bathrooms. There's a lot of like, this is what we're going to do in very specific ways. That's going through full EIS right now, with the idea being on the other side of that is that we will have done a lot of, there are some in more environmental review that some projects will trigger, like particularly the parking lot, because there's going to be excavation associated with building it. But the idea being that most of the projects will have cleared environmental review, so we can actually just go forward and do them without having to go through substantial environmental review. What our plan doesn't do is we say, like, let's invest in infrastructure, right? We want to make sure that our culverts are safe, but it doesn't say we're going to replace this, and this one. It doesn't go to that level. We're going to have to decide which ones we're going to go through, and then we're going to have to go through the environmental review on those projects. Exactly. So it's a very different scale of plan. That it's a much more bird's eye level view than the nitty gritty of the, here's what we're going to replace, here's what we're going to build.
Right. And what you'll find is as you start to zoom in, so comprehensive plan does a detailed, thorough review, but understands a lot of these impacts as potentially speculative. Zoning is going to go through another detailed type 1 review, because now we've got specific recommendations on specific parcels of land. That review still might find that the nexus isn't there, that it's still too speculative. And then each subsequent planning board action is going to require another environmental review that says, okay, now does this specific development on this specific parcel as proposed create an environmental impact? And that the owner is going to have to answer no for the, or mitigate to proceed. So you'll watch this happen because you all will be here for a long time. I know everybody's looking to stick around. So you're gonna watch the decisions you make tonight get continuous review under seeker. And eventually it becomes not speculative at all. This guy's building on this piece of property and this is what's gonna happen as a result of it. So as was mentioned, you completed part one and approved it at the prior meeting. The process moving forward is that on the town's behalf and in partnership with the town board, we've completed for your review part two. And I'm just going to walk you through the questions associated, or sections associated with part two. Section one is impact on land. This is one of those where this action, the approval of this comprehensive plan, has no physical impact on the land, and that any impact is likely to be speculative, and that future guidance is going to be required to meet all town and New York State standards for environmental impact. So in this instance, we've checked no. The town board has determined, if approved, will have determined that there is no impact on the land.
Question, so just a quick question, so this, we can follow, we can actually do two documents at the same time, because you have the narrative that goes along with this, right?
Yes.
So this is a new feature,
Yes.
because it was new to us to
Yes.
have this.
Yeah, so this is super helpful because later someone's gonna come forward potentially and say, hey, your environmental review, you didn't take the hard look, you didn't do a detailed analysis. So there is a document in your package there with a header that says Town of Ulysses Town Board. And then it says comprehensive plan impact on community review dated June 30. And so because you have it and you've seen it, we won't read every word, but that impact on land was checked no because of the information I just provided. Impact on geological features. The DEC has identified numerous geological features. We do discuss those in detail in the plan. We did a coordinated review with interested agencies to ensure that this is effectively addressed. Again, as a matter of policy, we've identified that there is no impact on geological features. Impact on surface water. Yes.
For this document, looking at the summary, because you just said we could look back at this if someone asked us.
Sure.
This does say there's no known unique or unusual landforms in the town, but I thought you just said that we've talked about a lot of them and heard them. So I want to make sure, like,
under number two,
Yeah.
that opening paragraph there, the New York State DEC identifies a number of unique geological features in the town of Ulysses, including Taganic Falls Park Road. Tompkins County's identified unique natural areas like Hartwoods, Waterberg Wetland, etc.
where
On this
narrative.
on this discussion document,
On the front
the
page.
narrative. Yep.
but no. You have a page number that you're reading from?
Page 2 on the. Is this the document you're looking at?
Yep, well, I'm reading the same thing, has the same title. Page 2 says impact on geological features. There are no known unique
That's what.
or unusual
Oh.
forms.
Is yours dated June 30th?
Yeah. You want to send me what you have?
Yes.
Is yours,
I like that then.
yours has more verbiage in it?
It has more detailed verbiage, so.
Yeah.
Actually, you should just make a
Yeah, let's just
photocopy.
make a copy.
I like, okay, get rid of yours, get rid of this one.
For recycling, right?
Yep. Or my kids will color on it, you know, that works too.
Never saw it. What's the July 6th meeting? You know,
So last week in our town board meeting, it came up that neither
I won't be in
Steve or
Pelican.
Caitlin are gonna be here on the 14th.
Take a quick break if you.
So the items that we had proposed to do on the 14th can get pushed to our next meeting on the 28th. But the one thing that has to get done is the approval of the vouchers. So the thought was just to come on the 6th have a quick meeting.
I'm up for that. Is this
Yes.
July?
Somehow, wait, are you doing it still?
I did it last time. It's fine. Let's do the 6th. I can definitely do it. this
Well, it
time.
would just be this month.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So we'll have to call in to see if they're ready or when they're ready,
um,
because it says noon.
we had talked about when they would be ready. And if they're ready.
Find out.
Thanks.
Because that was the only action like we have to do at the beginning of the month was to pay the bills. So we we're trying to figure out how to way to work people's schedules.
Okay.
And this is nights we're improving now to be
So
working.
we're closed
All right, because Monday night, I think.
July 3rd to 6th.
But if the three of us are here in person, we could call in. It just would be.
Right,
funny
but if I
for
need to
you.
do the vouchers though,
Do you want me to do the voucher this month?
I'm thinking the 6th, that might be flexible.
Okay. Well, if it changes,
Yeah.
let me know and I can always do it for you.
Cause the stuff I just did, and then I'm middle of next week, I'm gone again, but. Just if whoever's getting them ready, if they're, I can just,
Do you,
well, if the meeting's at noon, so that to get here, we could, what, 11:30 or something.
Yeah, it takes about
Right.
half an hour. It feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
11:30.
Okay,
Okay.
but you said you're not here.
Correct.
Everybody, this is vacations for everybody. But Chris or Casey will get them ready. And Blixie will be here.
Yeah.
And Lori will not working that quick meeting.
Well, now you have.
This is yours. If something changes and you can't get here, just let me know.
Okay.
So the two public hearings we're supposed to have,
There's still 762.
7682. Yeah. That's an interesting reaction.
No, the email as I was going in my calendar, I received an email not from my dentist, not to me, confirming an appointment that's not for anyone in my family. So it's like, oh, I don't know what to do with any of that.
Gotcha.
That's the faces. I was like, none of these names
Yeah.
I have ever seen before.
Well,
Thank you. Oh, look at all these words.
Oh my.
What do you got on this one?
we did have 6 other people here.
What's that?
We had 6 other people.
Here? Oh, were they? Good. Similar comments?
So we tried to address a lot of what they raised in the discussion too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we took her.
Helen's the only one sticking it out.
She gets all the gold stars today.
I'm sorry. Heartwood, I just learned where that is.
Oh,
It's
oh,
that came up in the discussion
It did.
in the comp plan because I was like, well, where's Heartwoods, Carissa? Do you know?
Heartwoods.
Heartwoods.
it's in the town. It came up in the conflict discussion. I know, right?
It was
Isn't
was
it
a
part
place.
of the Finger Lakes Land Trust Conservation
Let me look it up.
Land?
We take care of everything for me. I was taking care of a long time ago. I think the biggest deal is.
Of course, when I type in Trumansburg, Bergen comes up. Not what I want. Tompkins County. So it's along Gigantic Creek. It's part of a unique natural area. It's loading still.
Lost a shoe. Hold on. Lost a horse. I threw a shoe. That's painful though.
So along Bolton Creek, a tributary to Gigantic Creek, is Heartwood's unique natural area, which includes a large wetland complex and remnants of mature forests. This area is made up of several large private parcels. One of them is in a conservation easement. Not this one. Probably can go through the Finger Lakes Trust and or the county's UNA information might have it. Sorry.
That's no problem. I'm sorry. The copies got whipped around. So we're on section 2. The plan does identify unique geologic features in the town. It does discuss these areas and pesticles that proactively preserve and protect them and promote public access. And in accordance with the coordinated review with interested agencies like Tompkins County and the DEC and others, the town board has checked no as to impact on geological features. Question 3 is impacts on surface water. Again, since there's no direct physical changes contemplated as a result or likely as a result simply of the adoption of this policy document, there is not anticipated any impact on surface water as a direct result. Future development, of course, required to meet all town and state standards, including stormwater pollution protection, etc. We did our coordinated review and did not receive any comments on impacts to surface water. Therefore, we've recommended in the form this has been checked as no impact. That's surface water. Groundwater. Impact on groundwater. Again, no physical changes. The future land use plan does consider some residential areas in a few areas without water and sewer service. Private wells and wastewater treatment systems may be needed to facilitate development. However, without specific development proposals in front of us and in accordance with all of the requirements associated with developing on land such as this, the town board has checked no here. Section 5 is impact on flooding. Again, no physical changes, but there are plenty of town and state standards requiring flood mitigation. Additional permitting required. We did our coordinated review and have recommended identifying no impact here. Impacts on air and climate. This involves no state regulated air emissions, no regulated impact on air. There is a climate change chapter in the plan, which makes recommendations for mitigating potential future impacts. As a result of that and our coordinated review, recommendation is to check no on this form. Impact on agricultural resources. The state finds that proposed action, which is adoption of a comprehensive plan, can impact agricultural resources through policies related to ag operations and land management. We checked yes here, meaning further review was required. This takes us into the subsections of this section. And so under subsection A, proposed action may impact soil classified within soil groups 1 through 4 of the land classification system. Because there are no physical changes directly resulting from this plan, and because of the mitigating recommendations in the plan, we have checked no to small impact under this subsection. Subsection B asks the proposed action may sever, cross, or otherwise limit access to agricultural land, including croplands, hayfields, pastures, vineyards, orchards, etc. Again, no physical changes, so we anticipate no direct impact resulting specifically from adoption, But in your plan, you do identify policies and action items to mitigate future impacts. So we've recommended that the determination of no to small impact be found here. The proposed subsection C, the proposed action may result in excavation or compaction of the soil profile of active agricultural land. Again, no physical changes, merely the adoption of the policy document doesn't indicate direct impact on excavation or compaction. But again, the comprehensive plan does identify goals and opportunities to mitigate future impacts. And as a result of our coordinated review, we've recommended to check no to small impact into this section. Subsection D, proposed action may irreversibly convert agricultural land to non-agricultural uses, either more than 2.5 acres if located in an ag district, or more than 10 acres if not within an ag district. Again, no direct physical changes resulting from this policy document. The comprehensive plan does identify future land uses that may be on existing agricultural properties, but has identified several classifications inside of the future land use map, including agricultural and natural resources, resource conservation, low density residential, rural residential. All of these are intended, along with the rest of the policy statements in the plan, to limit the impacts on agricultural development and to balance the desire to preserve and enhance agricultural resources with the need to create housing opportunities and other economic development. As a result of all of these, along with the coordinated review, the board determines there be no to small impact here. Subsection E, proposed action may disrupt or prevent installation of an agricultural land management system, and no physical impact or no physical project proposed here, simply a policy change. The comprehensive plan does have policy statements that commit the town to preserving and enhancing agricultural land base. Includes an objective to keep farmland active and productive. That, along with the coordinated review, recommendation is to show no to small impacts here. Subsection F, the proposed action may result directly or indirectly in increased development potential or pressure on farmland. No changes to development regulations are included in this plan. Those will be considered later and will undergo additional environmental scrutiny, environmental review. As such, along with the adjacent policy recommendations and the coordinated review, we've recommended a no to small impact here. Under subsection G, the proposed project is not consistent with the adopted municipal farmland protection plan. The farmland protection plan that the county has adopted identifies several significant agricultural parcels. The plan provides for goals and objectives to support preservation of farmland. And since there's no specific development proposed contemplated under this, the board has determined no to small impact there. That's impact on agriculture. Impact, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, is there anything anybody wants to talk about in this section?
Would there be a value in identifying, or maybe municipal covers it, the farmland protection plan, like whose plan we're referring to in this section? Because you mentioned the county, but other places there's been state regulations or guidance from those things. So I don't know if that's necessary. I'm just noting it's not.
This is actually at the town.
The town.
This is the towns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Agriculture.
Yes, I said county and that town.
I'm sorry, county.
Yeah.
So maybe we should, could we amend that just to include, the Ulysses, like, what's the official,
Agricultural and farmland protection.
so. And it's from 2013.
2013 stuff.
I think we do the Ulysses. Amended to the Ulysses Agriculture and Farmland Protection Plan, parentheses, 2013. See, I think it's a good idea. So, it's that first plan we're referring to.
Can I go back one
Yep.
paragraph? It was read through quick. The bottom of page 9, the majority of the town is within the, and it lists a number of areas. Aggregate and natural resources, resource, low density or rural residential future land use category, is that? Should we make that categories or is it correct? And I'm. It's just the bottom of page 9.
Yep.
Categories.
Categories.
It's categories.
Then the next sentence says these categories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I, so I'm like, I don't think that's one category.
No, no.
I don't want someone.
Third line.
Yep, categories. And Matt, you can have my copy of this, if you guys read my handwriting. I hope you can.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, no, I think those are good changes, yeah.
Section 9 is impact on aesthetic resources. Again, no physical changes contemplated as a direct result of this, of the adoption, which is being considered tonight. We did a coordinated review with associated agencies, and the future land use plan does designate areas around scenic or aesthetic resources as parks and open space under those land use categories, which is intended to preserve those resources. So we recommend to check no here. Under number 10, similarly, no physical changes, and there is a policy in the built environment section with goals and policies related to preservation of historic resources. That, in conjunction with the coordinated review, has resulted in the town board's decision to check no here. Impact on open space and recreation. Again, no physical changes. Does include an element on community well-being with goals, objectives, and policies relating to increasing and enhancing recreation and open space resources. That, in conjunction with our coordinated review, has resulted in checking no here. Impact on critical environmental areas. Based on the New York State DEC info locator, which is the core resource that's used to determine where critical environmental areas are designated by the state. They've designated none in the town of Ulysses. Currently. The comprehensive plan does consider local adoption to protect these from future development. Check no here. Impact on transportation. Proposed impact may impact, or the proposed adoption may impact transportation systems through policies related to land use and transportation section. So go through the subsections here. Is traffic projected to increase beyond the capacity of the existing road network? As a result of this specific action, there's no projected traffic increases. Future development patterns are required to create, I should say projects. Future development projects are required to create traffic impact analyses where appropriate. It is noted, and you all have noted this in relation to your medium density housing patterns. The town's taken steps to put those along key transportation corridors. The New York State Department of Transportation was an interested agency in this review, as was Tompkins County. Based on all of that, we recommended a no to small impact here. The proposed subsection B, the proposed action may result in construction of paved parking area for 500 or more vehicles. This action does not result in any development regulation, and certainly not one that considers that. It's not envisioned that any large scale housing or commercial development resulting in a parking area of 500 or more would be necessary. I think with 500 parking spots, you could put everyone in town in a car that fits into a parking spot.
That would be pretty amazing. I'm tempted to try and figure out a way to do that. Not with a new parking lot.
Just to see if we can do it. The plan does encourage shared parking. The town does not have minimum parking requirements, which would typically result in excessive parking. We did do a coordinated review with Tompkins County and the DOT. Therefore, we're recommending a no to small impact designation here. The proposed action will degrade existing transit access. Existing services like TCAT are already limited in Ulysses. Development patterns would not degrade existing access. Future land use envisions development along TCAT routes, and stops and may increase transit access. We did coordinate this review with DOT in Tompkins County and received no comments on transportation impacts. Therefore, we're recommending no to small impact here. Subsection D, the proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. The comp plan has identified ways to improve pedestrian and bicycle accommodations and road safety, including specific transportation objectives. That, along with our coordinated review, has resulted in a recommendation of no to small impact here. Subsection E, the proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. Any additional development contemplated under this plan would not change that. There are no significant commercial or industrial developments proposed. That, along with the coordinated review with Tompkins County and the DOT, among others, has resulted in a recommendation of no to small impact here.
If there was significant building, even at the 8 units a year for the next 20 years of the plan, and it was all in one area that we, with this plan, designate as, a desirable place to build, wouldn't that potentially, change the flow of traffic?
It could, right?
Yeah.
And so in that kind of and I'm not, this is only just drawing on the state language, but in that speculative look forward, you can see the potential for that. So as you adopt your zoning, you'll want to consider how enhanced zoning or increased density relates to the transportation network, including development regulations, which should require that any new development that's going to impact the transportation network undergo a traffic study. And that's done at the cost of the developer or at the cost of the proposer. And that traffic study be signed off on by DOT because it's a state road, by DOT and Tompkins County and your planning board. And so it's possible, but because it's speculative, the finding here was no to small impact.
And the planning board, I can guarantee you, would be looking at not just like the traffic volume with the traffic study, but how the traffic actually flows.
Yeah.
Because there was a period of time, and I hope it doesn't come back, quite honestly, but this will create a lot of anxiety, I think, within the community. But when Dollar General was looking at a potential site in Route 96, there was concern about how people were going to be able to like safely get in and out of there, because that's a 55-mile-an-hour area, and so having to slow down pretty quickly to enter, and the traffic implications, and there are design features that can go into helping minimize, the adverse impacts. So I think that all, in addition to the traffic study, those kinds of like site level specific review of, where are people entering and exiting, where, how does the traffic flow in terms of accessing these roadways would absolutely be considered on a project by project basis.
So I guess that example, which would be considered a project by project, has me struggling with the opening sentence. Additional development will not change how people and goods travel through the area. You just described how potential development would potentially change, how people and goods move through the area. So I'm just struggling with that sentence, and maybe I'm being too, this is an action and this is more speculative. So happy to hear about that.
And so the question is, the proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people and goods. Maybe instead of additional development, we could say the proposed action will not change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How people and goods travel through the
I'd be
area.
more comfortable with that.
And then it
Thank
goes
you.
into new development.
Yes, because I don't see us, changing the road network makes sense, and then, or not changing it, let me rephrase that. And then no significant commercial or industrial.
So I just changed, I crossed
Thank
out
you.
additional development and proposed action.
Good with that?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for catching that. Section 14 is impact on energy. Because the action involves no physical changes, it's just a policy. The recommendation here is to check no. Should note that this policy document does contain policies to enhance energy efficiency and deal with climate change and resiliency. A bunch of policies there directed toward efficiency and renewable energy. along with development that would be efficient in the grid. As a result of the coordinated review, we've recommended that you check no on 14.
For consistency, we've used the phrase like it has a chapter or a section on other areas. And so here, I'm thinking about what we heard about highlighting what's important. Could climate change and resiliency, I've checked resiliency, but could climate change be something like has a section or a chapter on this? Because it's consistent with what we've said about other areas.
You have what you want to mimic?
Yeah, I'm just trying to find what it says.
In the third paragraph of the second sentence, the plan also includes a climate change and resiliency element with an objective related to sustainable development practices such as recycling strategy. Is that different than what you're looking for?
No, man, so here, I was thinking back to page 11, the plan includes a section, built environment with capital letters, because it's identifying a specific section. And I'm wondering if, in the interest of hearing people and highlighting what's important, the plan includes a section or a chapter regarding climate change and capitals, identifying like it's a specific segment of the plan. I may be overthinking this. I apologize for overthinking out loud.
No, I don't think that's.
I know what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
not
so
saying
it-
it well here, but.
No, I think, I mean, you just said it. So on the second sentence, that's just the plan also includes climate change and resilient development. Just say the plan.
It has
includes
a section. Yeah, because,
And
or a
then
chapter, you say,
say-
yeah, we use section before, so a section.
Applies climate change and resiliency, because that is the name of the chapter.
Yep,
Section.
yeah, we use the same section for built environment, so.
And then get rid of the word element and then go into an objective related to sustainable development practices.
Okay, so the plan also includes a section and then capitalize climate change and resiliency with an objective
Yes.
related.
That keeps very similar pattern to reflection of other areas.
Easy to reference. Great. Section 15, impact on noise, odor, and light. Because this action involves no physical change and includes only adoption of policies, there will be no direct impact on noise, odor, and light. The comprehensive plan does not contemplate major industrial or commercial users or the potential or any potential impacts associated with them, things like blasting, not foreseen. Future impacts on noise, odor, and light will be evaluated and subject to seeker as necessary. So again, moving from speculative to real life.
Just because it kind of seems random, but the blasting is specifically called out because it's one of the questions. It's 15B. Is blasting proposed? So it's kind of.
Thank you.
Because why would you even?
Why would you mention
But
blasting?
it's a specific question.
And then odors are often there, as there
Yeah.
as well, so
Yeah.
noise, odor, and light, and so specifically blasting.
Section 16 is impact on human health. Because this action involves no physical changes and is just a policy document, there's no direct impact on human health from exposure to sources of contaminant. Future development subject to compliance with seeker. Therefore, the board has checked no on section 16. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is adoption of a new land use plan. The plan's future use components are consistent with currently adopted future land use plan and is in line with existing land use patterns. Additional development will not change. Well, I'm sorry. Flip the page instead of turn page. So according the analysis here goes into some forecasting of how land use may shape, how future land use may shape growth in the town.
That second sentence is a little bit awkward. The comprehensive plan will not cause.
So it should, yeah, just say, it should say does not.
Does, will, not, yep.
Where's?
Or second paragraph, yeah.
2024. The second sentence.
Yep. Okay.
The town planner did conduct an analysis.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to change
Yeah,
this and I
hold on.
missed.
Second paragraph,
Second paragraph, yep.
second sentence,
Comprehensive plan
does not.
does not. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
So a 5% increase would result or like, we start with a number, there's the, according to the plan, 2024 population was 4894, a 5% increase would results, because I'm confused by what that statement is doing.
What 5%
Is
equals?
equal to.
So right now,
Mhm.
in 2024, the population probably should be lowercase. Was
Are you-
4,894.
predicting a 5% increase?
And then the 5% increase would be 245.
So no, we're not predicting, we're actually saying, so
It's like the
It's
sentence
just sort of-
after it explains why the first sentence is there.
so why this is a big, I mean.
That's all. That's
What
all.
I discovered going through Speaker very in depth, on the land donation is that there's an entire workbook that accompanies this, and so you're actually answering questions through the workbook and then funneling them out here,
Sure.
so it
Yes.
is,
So
it's fun.
in section 17, subsection B, it says the proposed action will cause the permanent population of the town in which the project is located to grow by more than 5%. So if we were projecting
Right.
it to grow by more than 5%,
I got it.
then
Okay.
we would have to evaluate, all right, is it gonna significantly grow by more than 5%? Is that would be a significant impact that we'd want to study? When Niels did his analysis, he recognized that 245 people represents 5%, and
Yeah.
that's unlikely that changes recommended in the plan would directly result in growth beyond 245 people. So that's why that number is
Right.
where
Okay.
it is. So under 17, we've checked no. 18, consistency with community character. Again, no physical changes to the plan. There's no recommendation to impact or remove or replace or eliminate structures and areas of historic importance. The development patterns envisioned here are designed to create efficiencies around community services by minimizing expansion by minimizing random expansion in the town. The housing chapter discusses the importance of affordable housing, which is a component to review. The comprehensive plan will not interfere with the use and enjoyment of public resources. In particular, we talked earlier about lakefront and ensuring continued access and ecological soundness on the lakefront. It's consistent with the architectural scale and character of areas like Jacksonville and Waterberg. And so for all of those reasons, it's recommended that the town board check no. Impact on disadvantaged communities. Again, no physical changes, just a policy document. There is a New York State disadvantaged community assessment tool. According to that tool, there are no disadvantaged communities in Ulysses. That's a state definition. However, you did include a section on housing, which discusses accessibility, affordability, inclusive housing for all demographics. Also discusses engaging historically underrepresented communities when thinking about land use housing policies. For all those reasons, we recommend the town board check no here.
I'm just gonna circle some lowercase housing goals, just as a lowercase instead of a uppercase.
Okay. And then section 20. Future climate risk, no physical changes recommended here. Did review FEMA flood mapping to ensure no significant impacts in the 100-year or 500-year floodplains. The plan does call for reducing or mitigating flood impacts through the policies recommended. Also the section climate and resiliency, which is formatted exactly the way you suggested it. I'm not sure why we missed that last one. Discusses the impact of climate change on natural resources and how those may be mitigated. This project was funded by a Climate Smart Communities grant, which requires alignment with those policies. We did do a coordinated review with the DEC, did not receive comments counteract or contradict that recommendation.
Were we looking at the most recent FEMA maps? I know they came out and just making sure, okay.
They came out sort of in the middle of this process.
Yeah, all right, just,
Be able to capture that. Then number what?
Number 7. Plans for Jasmine.
I was wondering if I missed it, if I blinked and missed that one, thank you. I was like, we skipped plants, but that's just.
No negative feelings about plans or. So.
It's page 5. It might not help you if you're on order.
5:15.
Page 5. Yes, impact on plants and animals, because this action involves no physical changes and includes only the adoption of policy. There will be no direct impact on plants or animals. Future development required to meet all standards, including permits associated with impacts to endangered, threatened, or protected species and their habitats. Developments required to use state tools for evaluating future impacts. Includes the plan does include a policy to work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to have a better understanding of threatened and endangered species and to share resources and measures that can be taken. We did coordinate a review with Tompkins County and the DTC as well as others and recommend that the town check no for this section.
Two edits, just on page 8 is missed. There's a TH without an E for the word the.
Do you have to find, can you help?
Yep, I can. Second paragraph, last sentence, Hamlet of Jacksonville and the Route 96 corridor. Middle of page 8.
Yep, got it.
Okay, and then question about page 10 in the listing under the farmland protection plan. It's at the second to last section. Recognizes development is occurring on these various areas. Village edge is capitalized, and I'm just curious if that's a specific term that's used.
It's not, so. it should be
So there's
like-
2 edges. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll put it through 2.
That takes you through part 2. And there are 3 parts, so we're going, it's parts 2 and 3. Yes, they associate with both parts, but those sections are associated with part 2.
Mhm.
For part 3,
Yeah. Right here. It's gonna be part 2 then. Title.
yes, part 2.
Part 2, so.
It drives to part 3.
Yeah.
I should just say part 2.
Yep. I'm gonna give you that.
So thank you. Part 3 of the form is a
I'm sorry.
This is, you're seeing, this
So
is,
that's
you're
me, that'd
adjusting,
be
it should be
page
2 all
two.
the way through, right?
Should be
It's
2.
as a header.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we're on part 3.
Which is the last
So,
page,
yeah,
single page, right?
Single double-sided page. Yep.
Okay.
Keep going. It's behind. Back here split.
Yep, all the way in the back.
Nope, not. Was.
It's the last page of my part 2. I think that's it.
I think it's that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So part 3 is the actual evaluation of magnitude and importance of project impacts and the determination of significance. And so the top half of the first page on this form tells you how you have to conduct your environmental review. It's our assessment that you have done what this asks you to do. The determination actually reads, you have reviewed and accepted part 1 of the FEAF, which is what you did at the prior meeting. You completed a coordinated review under seeker and received no objections to being designated as lead agency. You designated yourselves as lead agency under the required provisions. You've given a thorough and comprehensive evaluation of the impacts likely to result from the proposed action. Based on this evaluation and the town's review of the EAF, parts 2 and now we're in 3, the town board has determined that the comprehensive plan adoption will not have a significant adverse impact on surrounding lands, surface water, traffic, energy use, wildlife, aesthetic resources, natural resources, flooding or drainage, human health, and that a negative declaration should be issued. This was considered a type 1. You have completed parts 1, 2, and you are in 3. The recommendation is that you have designated yourself as the town board. Considered the draft of the plan itself, comments from interested involved agencies, and comments from your public hearings. Found that it will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared and a negative declaration is issued.
On the first page, where we say proposed action, P is lowercase and A is capitalized, so. The proposed action should be capitalized, or action should be lowercase, so just. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 line down, action
see it.
should be lowercase. Okay, did you get it?
I did.
I'm being picky.
No, we want to clean these.
Is there any reason to, so we list like land, surface water, traffic, energy use? Do we need to go through and just make sure every single one of these, agriculture is not listed?
That's a good question.
Groundwater is not listed. So,
Certainly at your discretion, you've conducted the review, so if you want to explicitly state that, we can make sure that gets explicitly stated.
everybody else is, so.
It would make sense to me if the sentence is just repeating the things that we reviewed. What are we missing?
Sorry, no, I
No,
was
you're fine, I know you were.
reviewing the other resolution, sorry. So could you say that again?
So just under the second to last sentence where it talks about, the plan will not, the adoption of the plan will not have a significant adverse impact on the surrounding lands. So we name most, but not all of the different categories.
Okay.
So like agriculture, groundwater,
Geological features is
geological
on the
features.
list.
Should we
I'm going through real quick.
include, make sure that each of those,
Yes, why don't we make sure everything is included? So are you okay with adding them
I mean.
after drainage? Is that okay? And then we could just add them in there and then, or human health, and human health becomes the last part.
Yes.
So which ones do you want to add? Agriculture?
Well, geological features.
Okay. Geological.
It does say surface water here and groundwater on the document, on the form. I don't know if.
There should be.
There's both.
Yeah.
Okay,
both,
all right, just
yeah.
maybe I
So
have
geological features.
Groundwater,
groundwater.
Yep.
air and climate,
Flooding is over there, flooding's there.
plants and animals. Well, we say
They
wildlife.
say wildlife,
So I would strike wildlife.
yeah,
Agricultural
athletic
resources.
resources is there. Ag resources. Historic and archaeological.
Yep.
Needs to be added.
Or
On the archaeological resources.
Open space and recreation.
what was it? What was that one? What's that?
Open space and recreation.
Open space.
Critical environmental areas.
Noise,
We did-
odor and light.
We did traffic, but not transportation.
We did transportation, didn't we?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
In the
Phrasing is
sentence,
bad.
it says traffic, but the category is transportation, so I think he's just.
Do you
Okay.
want to strike traffic and include transportation?
I think that's what we're doing, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
That way, this sentence includes all of these sections, is where we're going.
yeah,
And
I just didn't want to
actually-
strike something that you didn't want.
Oh, thank you.
Community character. Community plans.
Community plans?
Yep.
Community character.
This advantage to community.
And physical climate risks. It's the last one.
This all goes here. Or human health. Correct. Okay,
Thank you.
to pull up my good remembering skills of how to spell archaeological, because that is not a word I spell every day. I think I did it. I
You
did
think
it,
you
but
did
if I,
okay?
but if I
Alright.
did poorly, don't tell me.
All right, don't spell it for us right now.
Lots of vowels in that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just for the record, Nate, and I asked, put you on the spot, you reviewed this, right?
Okay, yep.
Yep. Yeah, Nate went back and forth. Neil's reviewed it. They went back and forth with MRB with comment. Feedback. Yep. Okay, so the next step would be to so Nate, we have a resolution on determining environmental significance. We made some changes to this document in this process. So how do we make sure those are reflected?
So I didn't, correct me if I'm wrong. I think several of those were made through motions by the board earlier this evening already.
No, this is the environmental review.
Okay.
So we
So
made changes to the part 2 and part 3 forms and the accompaniment to the narrative accompaniment to part 2.
Wordsmithing.
Yeah, we're
A little
wordsmithing it.
bit, words.
So that was all through discussion. The clearest way would be to adopt the motion as presented with, and then specify the specific changes that you discussed.
Okay, can I have my card back? Okay. So. I can talk Pritha slowly and then we can do some resolved. Okay, so before we do that though, where in this fund resolution should we do it? Where can I add those amendments? Date?
Yeah.
43 or 44?
I think after 44, so then.
45?
Yep, 45. The town board has discussed and authorized or approved or just discussed changes to the information presented, whichever document that you're referencing specifically, as follows. And then maybe 45A, B, etc., through the changes that you're talking about.
So it'll be the first one. So we're gonna have a 45 that's gonna be related to changes related to let's do.
Start with the narrative. Yeah, well, I was just gonna suggest, aside from the very last change that you made, where you actually modified the language in part 3, the changes that you made relative to capitalization or reference to specific section of the document.
We changed slightly one sentence.
Yes. The proposed additional development. to
Additional
proposed action.
development to proposed action.
Yeah.
So we changed patterns to projects on page 13. we specified the correct name of the agricultural and farmland protection plan. We changed a sentence. The plan also includes a section on climate change and resiliency, got rid of element on page 15. I mean, the typos, those are typos, lowercase, the rest. Yeah, so Nate, there's really, most of them are typos.
So then I think you could do, instead of a 45, do a new resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is authorized to make corrective changes to the comp plan as discussed at the meeting.
Well, to the seeker.
The seeker document.
Yes, excuse me, to the secret document.
Realize it's almost 9 o'clock. Yeah.
To make, resolved to make, is authorized to make corrective changes.
Right, typographic, grammatical changes.
Oh, that's great. So Chris, thank you, Michael. It's very helpful. On the adoption of the comp plan, there's a resolved already there. Resolved that the town supervisor, their designee is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, Scrivener errors in the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan, but we could change that to the seeker negative declaration.
Yes, I think that's a great idea, adding that to the seeker neg deck.
Not the whole thing, but just for that part.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Michael, that's great. So there was one place that we changed something that I think we probably do want to codify, and that's on page 15. It's that proposed action will not change how people.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay,
And so then probably just add a new resolved paragraph that says exactly what you just specified. Resolved that page 15 of the however we're titling this particular document.
part 2. It's
It's the
the,
narrative, right?
it's the, yes, it's the seeker full environmental assessment form, part 2 narrative.
Yep. Resolved that document, as you just specified, on page 15. Be changed.
To replace additional development with the proposed action.
Right.
And I don't want to waggle us back to that, but that is part 3. Because
so it's part
the
3.
evaluation of magnitude.
Okay, so this really isn't a part 2, though, it's part 3. Got it. We just follow along in part 2
Yes,
for some reason.
That's,
Confusing, but that is not us. That is.
I'm saying,
that is
no, I
me.
wasn't saying it was you, I
That
was
is
just
the blame
terribly
is Dave's.
organized.
Yeah, you should complain to that.
I'm doing it right now.
No, you're not. That's like talking on Facebook. I mean, okay.
Okay, so, where is this paragraph go?
It's gonna go in the resolved after the now therefore.
I would actually put that like now therefore be it resolved, and then this resolved,
Okay, never mind. That's why we have
and
attorney.
then the next resolved, just to get it in order.
Okay, so that was in that. We didn't have any changes in this one, in part 2. There were no changes in part 2, but we do have changes that I think we should codify in part 3.
Final page of part 3.
But yes, part 3 evaluation.
There
So
you go.
Chris, you tell me when you're ready and we'll do this too.
Okay, hold on.
Yep,
So-
exactly.
It's the new paragraph about typographical errors is going to be the now therefore be it solved. It's gonna be
Which
the first.
resolution?
Yeah.
Updating.
Yep. And this will just be now.
So this is. Yeah, wait, is it this? Thank you, that's, I lost it at the numbers and then. Gotcha. Okay, it all makes sense. This sounds like where is 45? Did not. Okay, so this is the new paragraph about typographical errors is going to be the now therefore be it solved. It's gonna be the first. Yeah. Doing so well.
Okay, and then we're gonna do another resolve after that first resolve we just did. And that resolve is the town board has discussed changes to information provided in part 3 dash evaluation of the magnitude and importance of project impacts.
You have this written down.
That's fine. Now you have to read my handwriting. See, this is getting worse. I wasn't gonna make you read it.
Should have just typed it like in real time.
Yeah.
It's like cut and paste.
Make it super simple and just say inclusive of all sections.
Yes, we're gonna
Rather
strike,
than-
yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Instead of the
well,
list.
so we're gonna strike. Wildlife and. I don't know what else is wrong here, but we came after surface water. Wildlife and traffic,
Thought that one.
striking wildlife and traffic and making the section
We have a
inclusive
town
of
mayor.
all section
Yeah, so that.
Yeah, that's part two.
of part 2. All the sections of part 2.
Yes. Just keep the names the same.
Which is kind of.
Together.
Or
Yeah.
consultants should have made it a lot.
Right, got it.
This is page 50. Okay,
I don't go up and get to see Scrivener errors and.
that's a fun word.
That's a good one. That's a good.
That's a good
That
word.
is a very specific.
Okay. Krista, how you feeling?
So good.
So good.
And a little tired.
Yeah. So Nate.
Yep.
Okay, so in number 41 of this resolution is we still have a blank, so as outlined in memos, the consultant dated May 26th and June 18th, along with a memo from Councilperson Weatherby dated June 9th, 2026.
I think that's it. We had more, like today.
Yes, right, so that's my question. Can I just add in so should I include the documents that were provided and resolutions that made like 4 changes to the plan today there also? Or should we just leave that blank and then just add them later?
I think it's fine to reference the changes that you've made to the comp plan here.
Okay,
So, and, change revisions made at the meeting on June 30th, 2026, as approved by the town board.
oh, there's the next line that has it anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Sorry, we could just strike that whole thing there.
So it's gonna say dated June 9th and with additional report.
Yes.
Yes.
that's
Need
right.
We don't need the and in the yellow.
With additional revisions reflected in the meeting minutes.
So all those revisions.
Well, no,
were
but it
made,
doesn't,
yes.
but it-
So
nope.
I think we leave that, we get rid of the blank. Because all of those revisions were made in the version we got on the 26th, but I do think we need to add a new 43.
Mhm.
That brings in the ones we discussed today.
Yes,
Is that okay with you, Nate?
yes.
Okay, so
Thank you.
the 4 revisions that we made today. We need to. Chris, you can drop these in from the other document, but I'll just read them in right now. So it'll be 43 on June 26th, I'm sorry, on June 30th, 2026. The town board approved. And then, does that work for language? And then just a colon and then the items that we approved, Nate?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing would be maybe instead of it being 43, because you made those at this evening's meeting. So the consultant prepared the draft FEAF part 2 an analysis prior to the meeting. So maybe bumping it down a paragraph or 2.
Do you want me to put it as the new 44 or the new 45?
I think new 44.
New 44?
Yeah, so then the 45 would be the town board has evaluated the potential environmental impacts, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so 44, the town on, let's see, on June 30th, 2026, the town board approved the following changes.
Yep.
And the changes, first one is replacing the low density stock photo on page 57 with a photo of Waterberg.
Right.
You tell me when you're ready, Chris, for the next one.
Okay.
Add, the second one is add Jacksonville Heights on Route 96 to the examples on page 58 of medium density residential.
Are these just all the same ones we?
Yep.
That's perfect. Here on Anne's. She's good.
Okay, so just for the public, I'm just gonna say the additional ones are replace the medium density stock photo on page 58 with a photo of Jacksonville Heights. And then the final one is to amend the future land use map to change the hinging post neighborhood from low density to medium density. So those are the changes that happened tonight. Okay,
Did you read the removing concept photo? Did we actually do that as a motion or was that just in passing?
we did not do that as a motion.
It's just
we-
inside our
emailing them.
Scrivener errors. Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking.
It's an unusual that there's a title like that, so
Yeah.
I think that's more of the typo.
Oh, I think so.
Scrivener errors as opposed
I
to
think so.
substance. Okay. Okay, and then Carissa, would you mind reading what you have for the now therefore be it resolved section and just read it through to the end?
Now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, scrivener errors in the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan as the same are identified from time to time, provided that when so doing, they include an appendix to the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan specifying all such changes and when they took effect. And
So we don't want all of that. We want it, so it's gonna go through Scrivener errors to the, what is it, the seeker parts 2 and 3.
Yep.
And so right now you have in there, it's for the Ulysses comprehensive plan. And this is just the seeker part. They're just approving me at this point.
so it's gonna stop at scrivener errors and then the next paragraph is gonna be discussed changes. So, like,
Part 2 and 3. So I'm allowed to make changes to parts 2 and 3. You're authorized in that. That are of that nature. So do you mind reading it again? I just want to make sure we get the language correct.
Meeting now to report be it resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, scrivener errors. And resolved that the town board has discussed changes to the fee part 2 and 3, strike wildlife and traffic, make the section inclusive of all the sections of part 2.
Okay, good. Nate, does that work?
I think so. Chris, if you could just email me that real quick.
Sure.
Devil's in the wordage.
So this is adding before. It's adding a very similar language here. Below under number 45.
Yeah, it'll be the first now therefore be resolved.
Okay.
That basically you're gonna authorize me
Yep.
to make those.
Yeah, you just
And then
grabbed,
you're
you grabbed this
acknowledging-
language from here and stuck it over there. Okay.
So I don't think though, the changes that you listed, we're actually putting that as number 44.
No,
No?
no, 44 is what we've talked about. Changes to the comp plan.
Oh, thank you. Yes, sorry. You're fine, Rosa. I just got lost. The secret weeds.
This is a very
So, Carissa, I think the only comment would be in your now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, Scrivener errors. Specify the documents to which Caitlin is authorized to make those changes. Right, so it's the narrative provided by MRB. And what else are we missing from that?
The narrative and part 2 and part 3. Just
Yeah.
yeah, because we making sure part 2.
Right. So specifying those three things, just so it's very clear to what authority Caitlin has to make those corrections, right? It's not a blanket thing. It's just to those three things, the narrative to the part 3.
It's only 2 things, yeah, the narrative and part 3. Part 2 is great.
Okay. Right.
Single correction that we caught. Stop looking, Steve.
What?
I'm joking.
I'm not looking anymore.
If I say it for typos.
I'm not looking
No,
very
you can look as
much.
much as you want. We haven't voted yet.
Okay, provide narrative.
For us to change one more thing.
Parts 2 and 3, or
Just 3.
just part 2?
Part 3. Part 3.
Part-
Who's on first?
And then, Carissa, the way you've phrased the resolve that the town board has discussed changes to the FEAF part 2 and 3, strike wildlife and traffic, make the section inclusive of all the sections of part 2. It should be phrased as an affirmative. The town board has changed those
Yes.
sections, not just discussed it.
Okay.
So it's the town board approves changes to FEAF part 2 and 3. And then when you say strike wildlife and traffic, it should identify the, where it is in the documents that is, those phrases are referenced. Same with the make the section inclusive of all the sections of part 2.
In part 3, determination, strike, wildlife and traffic, ...
It's fine with me, but this is demonstrating I'm good. I'm not the clerk. Can I beseech you to read it to us?
Now, therefore, the town supervisor or their designee, and be dreaming about this, is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, Scrivener errors to the narrative provided by MRB and P part 3. And result, the town board has approved the following changes to the FEAF part 2 and 3. Part 3 determination, strike wildlife and traffic. And make the section inclusive of all the sections of part 2. I'm specifying what section.
No, that's how it reads.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and then resolved, and then I would pick up the resolved of the town board of the town of Ulysses based upon the review and findings above, hereby determined that adoption of the comp plan is a type 1 action, will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, and a negative declaration of environmental significance is hereby issued in accordance with Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR Part 617, and be it further resolved, the town supervisor or their designee is hereby authorized and directed to sign the seeker negative declaration and to take all necessary steps to file and distribute this determination as required by law. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So I will move this.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Other than Chris's dreams tonight, should be
Yeah.
anything, and I plan to follow up with you tomorrow. Okay.
A gavel.
No, I do. Nancy left one. I don't know who she got it from. Maybe Liz had it. Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you. It's a lot. Matt, do you need my copies back?
I'm just gonna give it first.
This is, yeah, that sounds good. Then you don't have to read my stuff. Her typing is way better than mine. Okay, that brings us to, and we're gonna need Nate, you're gonna need you again. I know it's late.
What are we for?
Okay, so Carissa, we're gonna need the same list of changes. Not to the SEAF or the FEAL, just to the comp plan. These ones.
Only those four.
It's a reference to those changes that you already approved by motion earlier.
Yes.
Yep. So, whereas the town board of the town of Ulysses finds the following, all findings are set forth in resolution. Do we know what resolution number this is? Or we fill them in?
You need the resolution on it for the secret resolution, the one you just passed.
Yes, 22.
That was 122, what we just passed?
123.
So all findings as set forth in resolution 122 of 2026 are adopted and incorporated as if fully set forth herein. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ulysses adopt Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan. Is it 2025 to 2045? What is the official time? I want to make sure. Okay, that
That's on the type, that's what's on the.
I just want to double check. Comprehensive plan as presented at its meeting on June 30th, 2026, and attached here too with the following amendments. So these are the 4 things that we changed tonight. Krista, can you pull those from the last resolution?
Yes.
Okay. So for the public, same thing. Photo of Waterberg, photo of Jacksonville Heights. And including Jacksonville Heights in the list of examples. Including changing the future land use designation of Hinging Mills neighborhood from low density to medium density. So those are what are getting incorporated. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is hereby authorized and directed to implement the foregoing changes and finalize the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan without further approval of the town board. And be it further resolved that the town supervisor or their designee is authorized to make minor corrections for formatting, typographical, Scrivener errors in the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan as the same are identified from time to time, provided that when doing so, they include an appendix to the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan specifying all such changes and when they took effect. And resolved that all town officials are hereby directed to undertake any actions required by local and state law necessary to otherwise effectuate the board's approval of the Ulysses 2045 comprehensive plan. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So I will move that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I would like to just simply say thank you to the board. This has been many meetings over many months at this point. I think there's been a lot of useful discussion, but a special thanks to the public for the last nearly 3.5 years of public comment, participation, engagement, thoughtfulness, participation of all different stripes. Thank you to the Comprehensive Plan Committee, Steering Committee. Truly a labor of love, but it's completely unpaid with the majority of the people that were there. It was a really nuanced group and there was so much dialogue. They think Matt can attest that like they worked really hard. This was not a rubber stamping group in any way, shape or form. there was a ton of engagement and people bringing a diversity of lived experiences in our town to the table and to share them. And then a final thanks to Niels for tolerating us throughout this process. You bring fantastic land use planning knowledge to the table, and we really benefited. We're better for it. So thank you for doing that. Thank you to Nate for answering all of my bizarre questions that sometimes came up. And then finally, thank you to MRB for helping us get to this point. So while I know that everybody will not be 100% happy because it's a community plan and not an individual plan. Caitlin's comprehensive plan would look different than this. You would all be in previously built houses or something else maybe. But it was definitely, there was a lot of public comment and there was a lot of public engagement. The MRB definitely facilitated that in a way that I hope people can use this plan to help survive in the 21st century, thrive even if we could. So, okay, well, we have a motion in a second. I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Nate. Nate, can I get you to stand for just a little minute?
Of course.
Thank you. The only reason is I wanted you to be on when we talk about the water law, but Niels, you are very much free to go. I appreciate you very much being here tonight and making this possible. So thank you.
Yep. Congrats.
What I was hoping, and Michael, I'm particularly glad that you're here for this introduction, is I think I'm moving around the agenda, but I really we'll come back to the climate smart zoning application. But I want to let Nate go because he is our most expensive person. It's true. It's true. So this is a local law amending chapter 20 of the town code. Tonight would just be an introduction and scheduling of a public hearing. This local law, Carissa, can I put you on the spot I will take part of it if you will take the other part, or was there only one change really?
We did a lot of changes,
Okay.
meters, and then just defining the user fees and clarifying the language in the billing section.
So for the master meter, the way the current law is written is that every single residential unit is supposed to have a meter. And this becomes really problematic because we are having to put meters on spots that are like potentially far away from like our line, right? So think about a property that has multiple dwelling units on it. The best thing for the water district and Scott's the one who brought this forth to change, and I agreed with it, is to have a master meter for the property. So we know that as soon as the water basically enters that property owner is responsible for public water that has gone onto their property. Because what can happen is if you have multiple meters spread out throughout a parcel and you have privately owned lines carrying them and you have a leak before you hit that meter, the district pays for that water loss, not the property owner, even though it's on privately owned infrastructure. So what Scott would like to do is move to a master meter for the property. And then if the property owner would like additional meters, we can put on additional meters with approval and they're paying for it. So if you have a single master meter, but the master meter would be the one that like makes the single determination of how much water is crossing onto the property and being consumed in some capacity. So does that make sense?
So this wouldn't necessarily be on for like a single family residential house, like where there's one property on a parcel. This would be more if there's
It's like check.
like Jacksonville Heights. Yeah. Situation where there's multiple parcel, like multiple individual units.
It could also be for if you have an AUD. So
Yeah.
think about, so what we're trying to do is help kind of address this so we're like accurately reading the water that is entering a property, and also not being involved between landlord tenant disputes. Because right now, if a property has a master meter or has an AUD on it, by law, we're supposed to put a meter on one and a meter on the other. But then there's line between the, like, it gets complicated between how the lines are running and who's being, you know, who's spending what money towards water. And I don't want I don't want the town to be between that. It's so, and I can compare it to, not in Ulysses, but we have property that has, right, NICEAG provides our electrical service at an astronomical rate. NICEAG doesn't care how I distribute my electricity bills to the different units. So we actually have some units that are metered for electricity use. So a unit knows how much, right, electricity they've consumed. So they're not paying for their neighbor, they're paying for theirs. But that NICEAG isn't involved in it, right? That's a between landlord and tenant situation. That's not a NICEAG to tenant situation. NICEAG just cares that I pay the master meter reading for the property, and everything else is my problem, right? And Scott would like to go to a master meter just because, for the reasons I outlined, really, it would make it a lot cleaner for the town to understand how much water's crossing, and then it keeps us out of that. And if people want additional ones, there's no problem to that. We can do them, but at the end of the day, the bill, the cost goes to the property's responsible for the property owner's responsible for water that crosses into their property. I don't want the water district to pay for water they're not using.
What's involved in installation of a master meter? Is there gonna be digging, or is it just done at the
We
meter?
already have them.
You already have
much. There's a place where there's, you know, there's not a location with a bunch of meters that don't have a master necessarily.
Okay.
We're not anticipating that this is gonna cost anyone additional money unless they opt to add additional meters.
This is just going forward.
Yeah.
So this is kind
Doesn't go
of
back.
already done, but we're just making it part of our law now, like a requirement for going forward, or it's not done.
So
It's more about reading the sub meters connected to the master.
Yeah.
meter.
Like Jackson Heights.
Yep.
Yeah,
So does this need
because
to
you
say?
guys do that as a favor, so
not on that property, right? Not on
if they have a master meter. And then there's meters under all the trailers. Washington Heights, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It keeps mixing the two.
it's easy to, yeah. I don't know how Washington, I would love to know Jacksonville
I guess
Heights.
what the
makes
guy's
it.
name was.
Oh, because usually the Heights are like a neighborhood right outside of, like, they have Cornell Heights. There's
Waterford Heights.
Hugo Heights. But sorry, speaking of Washington Heights, I was driving by the other day. Right before you get there, you can see the ticket booth. So before you get to Washington Heights.
Okay.
The ticket booth is.
Got it.
Oh, I thought, really? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day and I meant to say something
Yeah.
to you.
Okay, yeah.
But now that you guys are talking about it. So
Thank you
Back
for
on
telling me where it is.
This, this is not retroactive, like Scott's not going out to update, my question was a little bit, how many parcels, were we talking about Scott going back and adding master meters that don't exist, but I'm hearing
So basically,
generally they don't.
it's
You-
not retroactive per se, it's in this particular case, in this particular property, would be reading just the master meter.
Got it.
so it'd be less time for him.
Right.
This staff. And less billing first.
So, and then there is a carve out, Nate, if I'm correct, that like the town board could choose to, so, upon application by the owners of a parcel, the town board may, in its reasonable discretion and subject to approval by the water district operator, authorize that the sole cost and expense of the owner's installation of water meters for each separate living unit in addition to the master meter. So basically,
Mhm.
if a house puts up an AUD, we're not gonna put in another meter for them unless we decide, the town board and the water operator decide that makes logical sense for some reason.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we will still bill the master meter. But they can have a reading. Is that correct, Nate?
No, that's absolutely correct. The whole purpose is to show the true charge to the owner. The owner of the property is responsible for the water service to the entirety of the property. And if for whatever reason the town board decides to approve individual meters and bills for individual dwelling units, the owner is ultimately responsible. And so it just kind of clearly shows that mechanism of responsibility there. The owner of the property is responsible for water service to it, regardless of individual dwelling unit tenants, occupiers' payment for the water service.
So if you had a situation where the tenant didn't pay the water bill, it'll go onto the tax levy for them if that bill doesn't get paid. So we have a way to make sure that we're capturing, you know, the cost of the water that's crossing onto someone's property to be used. So,
Right.
And then the fees, would you mind just going over the fees?
So this was, there was a couple of other amendments suggested by Carissa. And so Carissa might be able to explain them better than I can, but I know for 200-10A, Carissa, this was to add the operation and maintenance as a user fee on the annual bill. Is that correct?
Yeah, the language kind of indicated that just debt collection would be it said it had for the user fees shall be assessed to each property for the purposes of retiring debt. And I wanted to add operation and maintenance because it's also part of the equation in what we bill for.
And that would be appropriate because anyone who is within the the water district should be a benefited parcel. And they should be assessed operation and maintenance fees to continue the benefit that they receive on account of having available water service to that property.
Is this an additional fee or are we breaking it out from just the number we're giving them?
It's not an additional fee, it's kind of the way that we've been calculating costs. Some of it goes on the
Okay,
and the quarterly bill, some of it goes on the tax bill.
okay,
I just wanted to make sure the ones we included all the different things.
okay, yeah, that's why I was asking. Is it something, you're just breaking out verbal?
Just spelling it out.
Yeah, this is what all the payments go to. Okay, thank you.
And then, Krista, the next change I think was to 200-10C1, which really just changed the 20 days to 30 days to match the practice of the town.
Right, for adding a penalty.
So we have, sorry, go ahead.
That's it.
Any questions about any of these? So tonight, all we'd be doing, and I don't know if you got a copy, I gave my copy away, I have other copies, I can read it. It's basically introducing, and it did make it onto the web, but it's introducing a proposed local law amending chapter 200 of the town code, scheduling a public hearing and addressing related matters. So I'll just read it quickly. Whereas the town board of the town of Ulysses has caused to be prepared a proposed local law titled a local law amending chapter 200 of the town code, the proposed local law. And whereas the town board desires to introduce the proposed local law and to commence the required review period prior to taking further action therein. And whereas the town board determines that the adoption of the proposed local law constitutes a type 2 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and its implementing regulations at 6 NYCRR Part 617. And so what that means is we don't have to do seeker. We don't have to, it's a type 2 action. It doesn't have.
It's already been deemed not to have a
Yeah.
significant environmental impact.
All type 2 issues.
All type
Got
2
it.
or,
List,
yeah.
the state that automatically, single residential homes, so.
Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ulysses hereby introduces the proposed local law titled a local law amending chapter 200 of the town code. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby classifies adoption of the proposed local law as a type 2 action pursuant to seeker and 6 NYCRR parts 617.5 CE 26 and 33. And be it further resolved that a public hearing on the question of adopting the proposed local law is hereby scheduled for July 28th, 2026 at 7 p.m. And resolved, and it should be, and be it further resolved that the town clerk and town attorney are hereby authorized and directed to take such additional steps as may be necessary or appropriate to carry out the intent of this resolution.
Quick Just a question, we're gonna have 3 public hearings on.
We sure are. It is public hearing night, but I don't, I genuinely, I
Bring
don't think.
popcorn for the public.
I'm just making sure.
Yep, no, and I did that deliberately because if you care about one thing, you should stay for all 3. You know, it's hard, it's sometimes hard to get the public involved, so you know,
That's fine.
this will be like a hat trick.
You could pull the order of the hearings out of the hat.
I like that.
I don't know if
I'm
that works
excited.
with our agenda version, but it'd be,
You give 9 minutes, no matter what.
Oh,
That's what
no.
the motion is up.
Oh, that's sounding a little rough, but it could be very interesting.
I'll make a motion as a, I'll move that as amended.
Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on this?
hearing some of the things about what people are finding on the web in advance, I wonder if for something like this, I don't want it, so if it's too much work, just let me know. A link to just below this change, if it's on the web, a link to the current section 200-4, just like right there.
I put in many.
I believe you. I'm just noting it out loud so that when we're told what is the current law,
Sure.
like, here it goes. I don't necessarily think we need to print another piece of paper, but it lives there.
That's a good idea. We could definitely, I think that when I say we, it's a royal we, so it's- sounds like she could do that for the public hearing so that people can see that. I think it's a good idea. Okay, so we had a motion and a second. We had some to comment, which is great. And so I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? All right. Okay. So now what? Now Nate can go. Bye, Nate. Thank you so much. I told him it would only last till 8. So
Very quick meeting. Great job. everyone.
yeah, Nate knows me a long time. My it'll be over quickly is never over quickly.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Nate. Have a good night.
Okay. So the final item for tonight, which I might have lost my.
It's right there.
I don't know what I do without you guys. Save me from drowning tonight. Okay. Oh, I have it right here. I found it. So the final thing we did a variation on this at our last meeting related to our consolidated funding application for the DEC application for the Quip Reynolds Road culvert project. So this functions as our gatekeeper resolution to allow the town to apply in the current consolidated funding round for money for a zoning update. When this was originally presented, it was presented as that we would have to pay a full 25% of the match because we have been identified as housing stressed, or that more than 25% of our households are housing stressed. That has been reduced for how much we're anticipated to have to pay down to 15% match, which is a pretty good deal for planning. Let's see. So this basically authorizes me to send a letter in of support. So the grant itself would be for, the application would be for $127,500 and the town's match would be $22,500. Yes.
Well, that number is not in the resolution, right?
It's not in the
Okay,
resolution.
that's fine. Just making sure. I don't miss
It's
that.
not in the resolution, but I have, again, so this is provided by the consultant. Please know that because more than 20% of the owner or households in the town are considered housing burdened, 25.12% per documentation provided by the Department of State, and then provided that the town qualifies for an 85% grant, 15% match. This means that with a $150,000 project cost, the town's grant and match would be as follows. Grant 85% is $127,500. The town's match at 15% would be $22,500. So that's what it breaks down to. No guarantee we're gonna make it in the first round.
Sure.
So, and we have plenty of work that we need to do before we start a zoning update, but at the earliest, it's a year out for being in contract. We are just now going into contract. We're getting ready to go into contract for money we applied for last summer this time. Because awards weren't made until January this year. So, we haven't even executed, we haven't even approved the contracts for money we applied for last year because we don't have the final projects. Or contracts. We know we have it, but they haven't issued the contracts yet. So, questions?
One little change.
Yeah,
Let
go
me
ahead.
tell you that now.
Yeah.
Just under the now therefore be resolved.
The town
should say
mayor,
the
town supervisor.
so the town-
Yep. That is a job I don't want. Let me go on the record and saying that. Pass. Okay. And it does commit us to paying that 22,000. If we, 22,500 if we get it.
And that would be. When would we pay that at the beginning of the project or the end?
So we're going to, it's a reimbursement grant.
Reimbursement.
So you pay it the whole contract and you submit on a quarterly basis, I believe. If it's like the DEC, you're submitting on a quarterly basis and getting reimbursed as you go.
So would we wanna start account for this in next year's budget, or is it too soon even? Like,
I would probably not even put it, I would probably put some money on hold for planning purposes and we're going to do that in the 27 budget, but I don't think that we
we
would.
would be able to move fast enough to get this.
Certainly not in $127,000. I mean,
Okay.
we'll put some money in.
You can-
Yeah. So we're looking at the 2028 budget, I think would be
Okay.
really where money is being allocated, and it would come out of the B fund.
That's general.
Yeah, so we can change that to the B fund.
Mhm.
Because zoning is exclusively a B fund activity.
Right. To make it official, where we talk about the town of Ulysses Comprehensive Plan 2045. Should we say as adopted in June
Mhm.
26th?
Where is
Third whereas.
Yep. As adopted. On June 30th, 2026. Okay.
Do you need to do that again? Two more down, Town of Ulysses Comprehensive Plan?
I don't think so, because
I don't
no,
think so.
we already told them it's
You did it,
adopted.
adopted.
Now it's in the
Yeah,
plan.
Just do it once.
Those are good changes. Okay, I will move this. Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll take care of all the business for tonight. We'll be closed on Friday for the holidays. The town is sponsoring, part of the sponsoring for the encore performances at TCFA, on the 3rd and the 4th. We do have a special meeting, next Monday at 12 p.m. And I think we have at least 3 people present so Michael, if you need to attend remotely, that's good to go.
I was just, Chris has said the vouchers would be ready.
Yeah.
By like 11:30 or something.
Yep, so Blixie, Chris is gonna be out of town, so Blixie and Casey so we did it specifically at noon so that they had time in case they needed to finalize anything else on Monday morning. But Blixie's a pro at getting that, so she'll take care of that for us. We encourage everybody to get their bills into us by the 2nd, so fingers crossed. Nate's not here, so he's supposed to get it to me, as I had told him that already. So we should be good to go on that.
And that's really the only item on that town board special meeting. Just to
I
let
think
people
there's-
know.
There's one other thing we're supposed to do. Is there one other thing we're supposed to do at that meeting?
I don't know.
Okay,
If not, I will. I I think we got through all the stuff we were
Yeah,
anticipating
thought
getting
so.
through at this one, and that was really the purpose of that one, because we pushed up all the public hearings
Yep.
and any other things.
I think that was it.
Karen, do you have to redo
There's
the
a
minutes?
notice.
There's minute.
But also, what about this? Did I miss this? The letter of support for smart growth zoning application?
That's what we just looked at.
Yeah, that was in there. Oh, did that, I thought that included the letter, did it not? I messed this up.
No. So this is,
Oh, yep,
So
there's that.
you approved.
I see.
We approved the letter, we need a resolution here.
So you approved that, this was a gatekeeper resolution to approve the submission, and now we have, sorry, thank you, Krista, I wrote the resolution to approve the letter. And this approval of memos from Smart, but we didn't need to, that's, ended up not needing to do that. It's all been taken care of. So this is under old business, the resolution. So, resolve the Ulysses Town Board authorizes the town supervisor to sign a letter of support for the smart growth zoning application to be prepared by the MRB group as part of the 2026 consolidated funding application process. I'll
Second.
move that in second. Perfect. Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you for catching that, Krista.
let's make sure we have eyes on it for capitalization and little things, since we just saw some of that. So just a good read through.
Krista is a good, Krista's busy though. Krista will not do it. I will double check it.
Okay.
I actually have it already. I
Okay.
just haven't signed it. I
Great.
read through it briefly, but they're always boilerplate.
Yeah.
The town, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Alright.
Aye. Okay. And then I did not put minutes in at all for this meeting. I don't have any board notifications. Our July 14th meeting is canceled. We will have our regular town board meeting with a hat trick of 3 public hearings. It might be a record. Or at least a tie. And that'll be on the 28th. And then I do anticipate having our regular meeting on the 14th or the 11th of August, which is our regular town. But historically, we have canceled our second meeting in August because that's right before budget season starts. So, at the meeting on the 28th, I'm gonna propose, canceling that unless we have business that needs to be handled. But I don't have any board notifications. There is no public, yes, any other?
Just because the end of the month of June, shout out to all the high school graduates, right?
Absolutely.
ICSD Transburg class 2026 and my school, New Roots Charter School, 100% graduation rate and 100% in 4 years, first time in its school's history. So
That's amazing. Congratulations to you and your team
yeah,
for facilitating that and all the kids and families who've made it,
exactly.
did the hard work.
Yep. Congratulations to everybody.
Yeah. And congratulations to all the teachers and who are free and the parents who aren't. I had the brilliant idea of signing my kids up for wrestling camp in Cortland, SUNY Cortland. So we're leaving at 6:30 tomorrow morning for that on day 3. So great choices. Not made here. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? We can adjourn. It's only 9:50. We've been here for 3 hours and 50 minutes, so. Okay,
I'll move to adjourn.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. Stand adjourned.
Maybe something wrong.
Oh, it's just getting started. July is full speed.